The Force binds all things across the galaxy, linking every living being in an invisible web of energy that flows through stars, planets, and the space between. For thousands of years, the Jedi understood this truth. The Sith perverted it. The Empire sought to extinguish it. But what happens when something arrives that the Force cannot touch? Something that exists outside its ancient laws. Something that doesn't care about light or dark, freedom or tyranny, destiny or prophecy. The answer came screaming through the atmosphere of Tatooine at speeds that turned sand to glass. The impact registered on Imperial sensors in Mos Eisley as a meteorite strike. Seismic equipment at moisture farms across the Dune Sea recorded a 4.2 magnitude tremor. 3 Jawa sandcrawlers changed course to investigate, their crews chittering excitedly about salvage opportunities. But when the first group of scavengers crested the dune overlooking the impact site, their enthusiasm died in their vocabulators. The crater was massive, easily 200 meters across, with walls of fused silica that sparkled in the twin suns' light. Heat shimmer rose from the depression, like the breath of some buried dragon. At the center, where molten metal and vaporized rock should have been, stood a man. He was bald, wearing a tattered yellow jumpsuit with a white cape that fluttered in the superheated air. His red gloves were scuffed but intact. His boots had somehow survived re-entry. He looked up at the Jawas with an expression of profound, bone-deep disappointment. "This isn't the supermarket," Saitama said flatly. The Jawas stared. One dropped its ion blaster. Another made a sound like an electronic hiccup of confusion. The lead Jawa, identifiable by the slightly larger bandolier across its robes, cautiously activated a translation device. It squeaked something in Jawais, then in broken basic. "You survive? Ship? Technology? Cell?" Saitama climbed out of the crater with a single effortless leap that carried him 15 meters to the dune's crest. The Jawas scrambled backward, their glowing eyes wide. He brushed some melted sand off his shoulder and looked around at the endless desert, the binary sunset beginning its descent toward the horizon, the unfamiliar constellations starting to appear in the darkening sky. "Where am I?" he asked. "This doesn't look like Z-City. Actually, it doesn't look like Earth at all." The lead Jawa consulted its translator again, clearly struggling with the concept. "Earth? Not no. This Tatooine, outer rim, desert world. You need repair, salvage? We help. Credits good." "Credits?" Saitama reached into his jumpsuit pocket and pulled out a handful of yen coins and a crumpled grocery list. The Jawas leaned forward, examining the strange currency with interest before shaking their hooded heads. "Great. I don't even have the right money." He sighed, looking back at the crater. "I was just trying to kill that mosquito girl's reinforcement. Threw a serious punch. Must have punched through something. Dimensional barriers, as it turned out, though Saitama had no framework for understanding what he'd done. In his universe, his power had already broken past limiters that should have been absolute. Here, in a galaxy far, far away, those same limiters didn't exist to begin with. He was a biological anomaly, a creature of pure physical might in a realm where the metaphysical force reigned supreme. And he was hungry. "Is there a store nearby?" Saitama asked. "I need eggs, cabbage, and maybe some meat if it's on sale." The Jawas exchanged glances. One pointed toward the horizon where lights twinkled in the distance. Mos Eisley, the spaceport city, a wretched hive of scum and villainy. The lead Jawa spoke carefully. "Mos Eisley, 1-day walk. We take for 20 credits." "I don't have credits," Saitama reminded them. "Then you walk." Saitama shrugged. "Okay." He started walking toward the distant lights at a casual pace, hands in his pockets, cape flapping behind him. The Jawas watched him go, confused by the strange human who survived an impact that should have atomized a Star Destroyer. After a moment, their entrepreneurial instincts overrode their confusion, and they descended into the crater to see if anything valuable had survived the landing. They would find nothing. Saitama hadn't arrived in a ship. He'd arrived as a ship, or rather, as something far more destructive and far more durable than any vessel that plied the hyperlanes. As he walked, Saitama took in his surroundings with mild interest. The desert reminded him of some Hero Association training grounds, though the sand was finer and the heat more intense. 2 suns instead of 1, that was different. He wondered idly if that meant vitamin D absorption worked differently here, then dismissed the thought as irrelevant. His body didn't follow normal rules anyway. A crate dragon roar echoed from somewhere beyond the dunes, deep and resonant enough to vibrate through the sand. Saitama paused, perking up slightly. Was that a monster? He looked around hopefully. Maybe this place has a Hero Association, or at least a decent threat level. The roar didn't repeat. The desert returned to its evening silence, broken only by the whisper of wind across ancient dunes. Saitama's shoulders slumped. Probably just some animal. He resumed walking. Behind him, the crater continued to cool, and the Jawas continued their fruitless search for salvage. Above, stars began to fill the sky. Constellations he didn't recognize, galaxies he'd never seen, a cosmos entirely foreign to everything he knew. Somewhere in the dark between those stars, the Empire maintained its iron grip on thousands of worlds. Stormtroopers enforced order. Star Destroyers patrolled hyperlanes. Darth Vader hunted the last remnants of the Jedi Order. And none of them, not Palpatine in his throne room, not Vader in his meditation chamber, not the Inquisitors scouring the galaxy for Force sensitives, sensed what had just arrived. Because Saitama wasn't a disturbance in the Force, he was something the Force had never encountered before. Absolute power without ambition, limitless strength without anger, invulnerability without the dark side's corruption. He was a hero for fun in a galaxy that desperately needed heroes, walking toward a spaceport city with nothing but a grocery list and a mild hope that someone might be selling eggs. By the time he reached the outskirts of Mos Eisley, the twin suns had fully set, and the city's lights blazed against the darkness like a beacon of civilization in the wasteland. Or perhaps a warning. Saitama didn't know which, and he didn't particularly care. He was just hungry. If you want to see more characters enter the Star Wars galaxy, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character you'd want to see in the comments below. May the Force be with you. Mos Eisley spaceport sprawled across the desert like a wound in the sand. A chaotic maze of domed buildings, landing bays, and narrow streets filled with beings from 1,000 worlds. Saitama walked through the main gate without anyone stopping him, which he found encouraging. Back home, heroes needed licenses and identification cards. Here, nobody seemed to care about a bald man in a cape. The streets smelled of exotic spices, engine coolant, and unwashed bodies pressed too close together in the evening heat. Neon signs flickered in languages Saitama couldn't read, advertising cantinas, repair shops, and services he didn't understand. A protocol droid hurried past, chattering in binary to an irritated Rhodian. A pair of stormtroopers stood at an intersection, their white armor pristine despite the dust that covered everything else, their helmets turning to track a group of hooded figures slipping into an alley. Saitama ignored all of it, scanning the storefronts for anything that looked like a grocery store. He passed a weapons dealer displaying blaster rifles in a transparent steel case. A Twi'lek woman called out to him from a doorway, offering something in Ryle that the translator unit around her neck rendered as pleasurable company. He walked past a betting parlor where aliens shouted at holoscreens showing pod races on some distant world. Finally, he spotted what looked promising. A general goods store with crates of produce stacked outside. Purple fruits that might have been melons, green vegetables that could pass for cabbage, some kind of dried meat hanging from hooks. Saitama approached, examining the offerings. An elderly Toydarian fluttered out from inside, his wings beating rapidly. "You buy? Good prices. Fresh from moisture farms." The creature's voice was nasally excited. 10 credits for jury juice fruit, 5 credits for hubba gourd. "Do you have eggs?" Saitama interrupted. The Toydarian blinked his bulbous eyes. "Eggs? Hey, yes, Gorg eggs, very fresh. 15 credits per dozen." Saitama pulled out his yen again. "I don't have credits. Do you take this?" The Toydarian examined the coins, turning them over with stubby fingers. His expression soured. "What is this? Some outer rim currency?" No good here. Credits only. Or trade." He eyed Saitama's cape. "That fabric is strange material. Very durable, yes? Maybe worth something? The cape stays," Saitama said flatly. "Then no sale." The Toydarian crossed his arms. "No credits, no goods. Go away, beggar." Saitama's stomach growled audibly. He looked at the eggs, then at the shopkeeper, then back at the eggs. "I'm not a beggar. I'm a hero. Usually people just give heroes stuff." "Hero?" The Toydarian laughed, a wheezing sound. "You? Where's your lightsaber? Your armor? Your blaster? You look like desert vagrant." He waved Saitama away. Go. Unless you want work. Jabba's palace always needs muscle. Big stupid humans like you, perfect for Rancor food." The mention of work sparked something in Saitama's memory. Back home, the Hero Association paid him for monster elimination. Maybe this galaxy had something similar. "Where's this Jabba's palace?" Before the Toydarian could answer, a commotion erupted from the cantina across the street. The distinctive sound of blaster fire echoed from inside, 3 quick shots followed by screaming. Beings poured out of the entrance, scrambling over each other. A Wookiee roared, charging out with a bowcaster. Behind him came a human in a vest, blaster drawn, backing toward a beat-up Corellian freighter in a nearby bay. "Han Solo!" someone shouted from inside. "Jabba wants his money. You die today, smuggler." A Rodian appeared in the doorway, green skin mottled with scar tissue, a smoking blaster in his hand. He fired twice more at the retreating smuggler, missing both shots. The human, Han Solo apparently, returned fire without looking, his bolt striking a speeder bike and triggering an explosion that sent shrapnel across the street. Saitama watched this with detached interest. Is this normal here? Very normal, the Toydarian muttered, ducking behind his crates. Stupid smugglers, stupid bounty hunters, stupid. He stopped, eyes widening. Wait, you want work? You want credits? He pointed at the Rodian. That's Greedo. Works for Jabba. You stop him, maybe Jabba notice you. Maybe give you job. I'm not really interested in, Saitama began. But Greedo had spotted the Toydarian pointing and decided the merchant was somehow involved. The bounty hunter turned, raising his blaster toward the general store. The bolt never reached its target. Saitama moved, not with the supernatural grace of a Force user, but with the casual efficiency of someone stepping aside to avoid a puddle. One moment he was standing next to the Toydarian. The next, he was in front of Greedo, his fist extended. He'd barely tapped the Rodian's chest, the gentlest touch he could manage. Greedo flew backward through the cantina entrance, through the main room, through the bar itself in an explosion of shattered bottles and splintered wood, through the back wall, through the building behind that, and finally embedded himself in a third structure 2 blocks away. The sonic boom of his passage rattled windows across the district. Silence fell over the street. The Wookiees stopped mid-roar. Han Solo lowered his blaster slowly, staring. The stormtroopers at the intersection turned, their helmets tracking the trajectory of destruction. Inside the cantina, the band stopped playing. A glass rolled off a table and shattered. Saitama looked at his fist, then at the cantina-shaped hole, then sighed. I tried to hold back. What? The Toydarian's voice was barely a whisper. What are you? I told you. I'm a hero. Saitama walked toward the cantina, stepping through the ruined entrance. Inside, dozens of alien faces stared at him. Criminals, smugglers, bounty hunters, all frozen in various states of shock. The bartender, a Wookiee with graying fur, stood behind what remained of his bar, holding a bottle in one massive hand. Sorry about the damage, Saitama said. That guy was shooting at people. Is he dead? I really tried not to kill him. Nobody answered. A Duros at a corner table slowly raised his hands. A Bith musician clutched his clue horn like a shield. In the back, a hooded figure, one of the few humans in the establishment, leaned forward slightly, revealing weathered features and sharp eyes that studied Saitama with sudden, intense interest. The stormtroopers burst through the entrance, blaster rifles raised. Freeze! Hands where we can see them. You're under arrest for... They stopped, finally processing the destruction. One trooper activated his comm. Dispatch? We have a situation. Requesting backup. Possible force user or something. I'm not under arrest, Saitama said reasonably. I stopped a guy from shooting people. That's what heroes do. Heroes? The first stormtrooper's helmet tilted. There are no heroes. There's only Imperial law. You'll come with us for questioning about destruction of property, assault with... I don't want to go anywhere. Saitama interrupted. I want eggs and cabbage. Do you guys know where I can buy those? The second stormtrooper raised his rifle. Comply, or we will use force. Saitama looked at the weapons pointed at him. Sleek, white, clearly advanced technology. He wondered briefly if they were dangerous, then dismissed the thought. Nothing was dangerous to him. That was the problem. Those aren't going to work, he said tiredly. Just tell me where the grocery store is, and I'll leave. The first stormtrooper fired. The red bolt struck Saitama's chest dead center, exactly where his heart would be. The energy dissipated harmlessly, leaving not even a scorch mark on his jumpsuit. Saitama looked down at the impact point, then back up at the trooper. See? Told you. The cantina exploded into chaos. Patrons scrambled for exits. The stormtroopers retreated, shouting into their comms. The hooded human in the back stood, his hand moving to something under his robes, then stopping, as if reconsidering. And outside, in the desert beyond the city, a Jawa sandcrawler's long-range scanner picked up the energy discharge and flagged it for analysis. That data would eventually reach an Imperial garrison commander. The commander would file a report. The report would be forwarded to an Inquisitor stationed 3 systems away. And the Inquisitor would feel something he hadn't felt in years. Genuine curiosity about a being who existed outside the Force's infinite web. But that was still hours away. For now, Saitama just wanted his groceries, and he was getting frustrated. The stormtroopers regrouped outside the cantina, their training overriding their confusion. Within minutes, a full squad had assembled. 12 soldiers in white armor, a sergeant with an orange pauldron barking orders, and an Imperial officer in a gray uniform who arrived in a speeder with an expression of supreme irritation. "You're telling me," the officer said, adjusting his cap, That a single unarmed vagrant destroyed 3 buildings and survived a direct blaster hit? Yes, sir, the sergeant replied. He claims to be a hero, whatever that means. Doesn't respond to verbal commands or warnings. Inside the cantina, Saitama had found an intact chair and sat down, waiting. The bartender, whose name he'd learned was Chalman, had nervously offered him a drink. On the house, please don't destroy more walls. Saitama had accepted a glass of blue milk, which tasted strange but wasn't terrible. The other patrons had cleared out, except for the hooded human who still watched from the shadows. This is taking forever, Saitama muttered. I should just find the store myself. There is no store, Chalman rumbled in Shiriwook, his voice translated by a droid unit mounted on the wall. Not one that sells what you seek. Mos Eisley has merchants, traders, but a grocery store as you describe. No, this is the Outer Rim. People scavenge, trade, steal. They don't shop. Saitama's face fell. So I came all this way for nothing? You came from the crater, the hooded human said, speaking for the first time. His voice was rough, weathered by desert winds and hard years. The impact the Jawas reported, that was you. It wasn't a question. Saitama turned to look at him properly. The man was older, maybe 60, with a lined face and steady eyes that held a depth of sadness. His robes were simple, sand-colored, practical. No weapons visible, but something about his posture suggested capability. Yeah, Saitama confirmed. Punched too hard. Ended up here. You know a way off this planet? Many ways. Few that don't involve imperial entanglements or criminal organizations. The man stood, moving with surprising grace for his age. You're not from this galaxy, are you? Saitama blinked. How'd you know? The way you speak, the clothes, your complete ignorance of credits, the Empire, basic galactic norms. The man approached cautiously, studying Saitama like a puzzle. And something else. You're empty. No presence in the Force. Not blocked or hidden, simply absent as if you don't exist in its flow at all. I've never encountered anything like it. The Force? Saitama took another sip of blue milk. Is that like psychic powers? I'm immune to those. The man's eyes widened fractionally. Immune, not resistant. Immune. He pulled back his hood slightly, revealing white hair and a beard. My name is Ben. I'm what you might call an observer. And you, stranger, have arrived at a very dangerous time to be something the Force cannot touch. Before Saitama could respond, the Imperial officer entered the cantina, flanked by 4 stormtroopers with rifles ready. He surveyed the damage with the air of someone calculating repair costs. You, bald one. I am Lieutenant Harkin of the Imperial Garrison. You're in violation of at least 14 Imperial codes. You'll surrender and submit to questioning, or we will use necessary force. I already told your guys, Saitama said, not standing. The blasters don't work on me. We'll see about that. Harkin gestured, set for maximum power. The stormtroopers adjusted their weapons. The whine of charging blaster packs filled the cantina. Ben tensed, his hand drifting toward his robe. Chalman ducked behind the bar, and Saitama just sat there, looking bored. 4 crimson bolts struck him simultaneously, head, chest, and both shoulders. The energy splashed across his body like water off Durasteel, dissipating into the air. Not even his cape was singed. Saitama yawned. Told you. Lieutenant Harkin's jaw tightened. He pulled a thermal detonator from his belt, priming it with a flick of his thumb. This will level the entire block. Surrender or I'll... You'll kill everyone, including yourself? Ben interrupted, his voice sharp. Is that Imperial policy now? Sacrifice your own troops and civilians for one unarmed man? Stay out of this, old man, Harkin snapped, unless you want to be arrested for obstruction. Ben's hand moved slightly, and suddenly Harkin's grip on the detonator weakened. The device fell from his fingers, but instead of hitting the ground and exploding, it drifted sideways, floating through the air to land gently in Ben's palm. The old man deactivated it with practiced ease. "There are other ways," Ben said quietly. The stormtroopers spun, rifles tracking to Ben. Harkin's face flushed red. "Force user, you're under arrest. Inquisitors will..." A shadow fell across the cantina entrance. Something massive moved outside, blocking the evening light. The ground shook with heavy, rhythmic steps, and then a voice boomed across the street, deep and resonant with the artificial translation of a Hutt's native tongue. "Lieutenant Harkin, this one belongs to Jabba." Everyone turned. Filling the entrance was a creature that made Chalman look small, a towering humanoid covered in gray-green skin, with a face dominated by tusks and tiny, cruel eyes. He wore leather armor and carried a force pike crackling with energy. Behind him stood two more guards, Gamorreans with vibroaxes, and behind them, a repulsor sled floated into view, carrying the massive slug-like form of Jabba the Hutt. The crime lord's bulk rippled as he moved, his tail leaving a trail of slime. His yellow eyes fixed on Saitama with the calculating stare of a predator evaluating prey. When he spoke, the translator droid floating beside him rendered his rumbling Huttis into basic. "The human who destroyed Greedo with one blow. I witnessed it from my palace observation deck. Quite the show. Greedo owed me money, so his death is acceptable. But such strength, such power, that belongs to Jabba." The Hutt's mouth stretched in something approximating a smile. "You will work for me, human. As enforcer, gladiator, whatever I require. In exchange, you will receive food, shelter, and protection from Imperial entanglement." Lieutenant Harkin sputtered. "This man is an Imperial matter. You have no authority. I have authority wherever my credits flow." Jabba interrupted, his voice dripping with oily confidence. "And on Tatooine, Lieutenant, my credits flow very far indeed. Unless you wish to explain to your superiors why you started a conflict with the Hutt cartel over one vagrant." The officer's hand moved to his sidearm, but didn't draw it. The calculation was clear on his face. The Empire needed Hutt cooperation for smuggling routes and information networks. Starting a war over one strange human, no matter how unusual, wasn't worth the political cost. "Fine," Harkin spat. "He's your problem, slug. But when he causes more damage, don't expect Imperial protection." He gestured to his troops. "Fall back, file report to ISB, let them deal with whatever this is." The stormtroopers retreated, leaving Jabba's entourage to fill the cantina. The crime lord's bulk shifted on his sled, his eyes never leaving Saitama. "So, human, do you accept Jabba's generous offer? Or must I demonstrate what happens to those who refuse the Hutt cartel?" Saitama looked at Jabba, then at the guards, then at the slime trail on the floor. His expression was the same one he wore when the Hero Association assigned him to C-Class. Profound disinterest mixed with mild disgust. "You look like a slug monster," Saitama observed. "Are you threatening me?" The cantina went deathly quiet. Jabba's majordomo, a humanoid in elaborate robes, gasped audibly. The guards tensed. Even Ben, still holding the deactivated thermal detonator, looked concerned. Jabba's laugh echoed through the ruined cantina, a wet, bubbling sound. "Oh, I like you, human. Such ignorance. Such boldness. Yes, I am threatening you. Refuse my offer, and I will have you fed to my Rancor. It's a beast that has killed 37 challengers. Very hungry, very angry." He gestured to the massive guard. "Show him." The guard activated a holoprojector. Above the device, a flickering blue image appeared. A creature of nightmare. 20 feet tall, all muscle and teeth and claws, roaring in some underground pit. Bones littered the floor around it. The image showed a Wookiee being torn apart, the Rancor's jaws crushing through fur and flesh. "Impressive, yes?" Jabba rumbled. "Now imagine yourself in that pit, human. Still so brave?" Saitama studied the hologram with a flicker of interest, the first genuine emotion he'd shown since arriving. "Is it strong?" "The strongest beast on Tatooine," Jabba confirmed, misreading Saitama's tone as fear. "No one survives the Rancor pit. So you will work for Jabba, or you will die screaming. Choose." Saitama stood up, draining the last of his blue milk. He set the glass down carefully on the table, then looked at Jabba with eyes that were utterly, completely bored. "Okay, let me see this Rancor thing. Maybe it'll be fun." Jabba's palace rose from the desert like a monument to decay. A sandstone fortress built on the bones of an ancient monastery, now transformed into a den of vice and cruelty. The journey had taken 2 hours by sail barge, during which Saitama had mostly stared at the passing dunes and wondered if this planet had any actual cities with proper infrastructure. Ben had tried to follow, but Jabba's guards had turned him away at blaster point. The old man's last words, called across the sand, had been, "Don't let them control you, stranger. You're more than a weapon." Saitama hadn't really understood what that meant. Inside, the palace was a maze of corridors lined with flickering torches and suspicious stains. Aliens of every description lounged in alcoves. Twi'lek dancers, Weequay guards, Bith musicians preparing instruments. The air smelled of spice smoke, roasting meat, and something rotten underneath. They passed through a throne room where Jabba held court, surrounded by hangers-on who laughed at his jokes and trembled at his displeasure. "Bring him to the viewing platform," Jabba commanded, his bulk settling onto a raised dais. "Let us see if this human's confidence is justified or if he is simply mad." The guards escorted Saitama down a spiral staircase carved into the rock. The walls grew damper, the air colder despite the desert heat above. Sounds echoed from below. Heavy breathing, the scrape of claws on stone, a low growl that vibrated through the floor. They emerged onto a metal grating that overlooked a pit 20 meters deep. At the bottom, surrounded by bones and filth, was the Rancor. It was bigger than the hologram suggested. 25 feet of muscle and rage, with arms thick as tree trunks and claws that could gut a bantha. Its skin was mottled gray-brown, scarred from fights. Small, intelligent eyes glinted in the dim light, tracking the movement on the grating above. When it saw them, it roared, a sound that made the weaker guards stumble backward. Saitama looked down at it with mild interest. "Huh, it's pretty big." "Scared yet, human?" Jabba's voice boomed through a speaker system. The crime lord watched from an observation deck above, surrounded by his court. "You can still accept my employment. I am merciful, sometimes." "Not really scared," Saitama said honestly. "But I have a question. If I beat this thing, do I get paid?" Laughter erupted from the observation deck. Jabba's bulk shook with mirth. "If you survive, human, I will pay you 1,000 credits. And if you defeat my Rancor, which has never happened, I will pay you 10,000. The Hutt's tone made it clear he considered this impossible. "Bib, open the grate." The major domo, Bib Fortuna, a Twi'lek with calculating eyes, pulled a lever. The grating beneath Saitama's feet split apart with a metallic screech. He fell, dropping 20 meters into the Rancor pit. He landed on his feet with a soft thump, completely unharmed, standing in ankle-deep muck and bones. The Rancor turned to face him, its tiny brain processing this new prey. It had killed Wookiees, Gamorreans, even a captured Tusken Raider chieftain. This bald human looked weak, soft, breakable. The beast charged, moving with shocking speed for something so massive. Saitama waited, hands still in his pockets. The Rancor swung one massive arm in a horizontal slash designed to pulverize bone. Its claws could pierce durasteel. The blow connected with Saitama's head, with a sound like a starship hitting a deflector shield. The impact shockwave cracked the pit walls. Dust exploded from the joints in the stone. Saitama's head didn't move, not even a millimeter. The Rancor's arm, however, shattered. Bone splintered through gray flesh. The creature reeled back, roaring in pain and confusion. It looked at its ruined limb, then at the small human who stood exactly where he'd been, expression unchanged. That tickled, Saitama observed. On the observation deck, the laughter had died. Jabba leaned forward on his dais, his yellow eyes narrowed. Bib Fortuna's Leku twitched nervously. The assembled court whispered in a dozen languages, all expressing the same shocked disbelief. The Rancor, driven by pain and instinct, attacked again. It brought both feet down in a stomp that should have flattened Saitama into paste. The floor cracked. The entire palace shook. When the dust cleared, Saitama stood in a crater. The Rancor's foot pressed against his head. He looked annoyed. "You're getting the muck on my cape," he said. Then he pushed. The Rancor flew backward, crashing into the pit wall with enough force to embed itself 3 feet into solid stone. Cracks spiderwebbed across the entire chamber. Somewhere above, a structural support beam groaned. The beast slumped, dazed, blood trickling from its mouth. Saitama walked forward, finally taking his hands out of his pockets. "Come on. You're supposed to be the strongest thing on this planet, right? Show me something interesting." There was a hint of desperation in his voice. The same tone he'd had when fighting the Deep Sea King, or Boros, or any of the enemies who'd promised a real challenge before disappointing him. The Rancor, to its credit, tried. It lunged forward with its one good arm, jaws wide enough to swallow a speeder bike. Saitama caught its upper jaw with one hand and its lower jaw with the other. The bite force that could crush stone did nothing. The Rancor thrashed, its full weight, easily 10 tons, pulling against Saitama's grip. He didn't budge. "You're really trying," Saitama said, and for a moment there was something almost sad in his voice. "I appreciate that, but it's not enough. It's never enough." He pulled his hands apart. The Rancor's jaw tore open with a wet crack. The beast collapsed, twitching once, then going still. Blood pooled around Saitama's boots. He looked down at the dead monster, then up at the observation deck where absolute silence had fallen. "Is that it?" he called. "Up. Do you have anything stronger?" Jabba stared. His mouth hung open, showing rows of stubby teeth. Bib Fortuna had gone pale. The guards exchanged glances, several backing toward the exits. On the observation platform, a bounty hunter in Mandalorian armor, Boba Fett, though Saitama didn't know the name, adjusted his helmet's sensors, running the fight through multiple playbacks as if unable to believe what he'd witnessed. "Impossible," Jabba finally whispered, his voice barely translated. Then, louder, "Impossible. Nothing kills the Rancor. Nothing." "I just did," Saitama pointed out. He looked around the pit, at the bones scattered everywhere, at the filth and the darkness. "This place is disgusting. Can I leave now? You said you'd pay me if I won." Jabba's shock transformed into something else, a gleam of avarice mixed with calculation. This human had just demonstrated power beyond anything in the Hutt's considerable arsenal. Power that could eliminate rivals, intimidate enemies, expand territory. Power that, if controlled, could make Jabba the most feared crime lord in the Outer Rim. Yes, Jabba said slowly. Yes, you have won. Bib, lower the ladder. Bring him to my throne room. The Hutt's eyes never left Saitama. You have earned your credits, human. But I think we should discuss a more permanent arrangement. Such power should not wander aimlessly. It should serve a purpose. I don't want a job, Saitama said as guards lowered a chain ladder into the pit. He climbed up, tracking Rancor blood across the metal rungs. I just want my credits so I can buy food. Of course, of course. Jabba gestured expansively as Saitama emerged onto the observation deck. The court parted before him, beings pressing themselves against the walls. 10,000 credits, as promised. But consider, with my resources, you could have unlimited food, shelter, entertainment. All you must do is occasional favors, eliminate rivals, intimidate debtors, simple work for one of your abilities. Saitama considered this. It was true that he needed money, and back home he'd worked for the Hero Association doing basically the same thing, eliminating threats for pay. But something about Jabba made his skin crawl in a way even the Monster Association hadn't. What kind of rivals? He asked. Oh, various competitors. Other Hutts who encroach on my territory. Rebel sympathizers who disrupt my operations. Imperial officers who demand too large a percentage. Jabba's smile widened. Nothing you couldn't handle with one punch, I suspect. Rebels? Empire? Saitama frowned. Are those hero organizations or monster organizations? The question clearly confused everyone. Bib Fortuna leaned close to Jabba, whispering frantically. The Hutt waved him away. Think of them as factions. The Empire rules through fear and force. The rebels oppose them with terrorism and chaos. Both interfere with business. You needn't concern yourself with politics. Simply eliminate whoever I designate as a threat. It was the wrong thing to say. Saitama's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his posture. Back home, he'd quit the Hero Association when they'd asked him to eliminate heroes who questioned their methods. He'd walked away from King when the man tried to use Saitama's strength for personal gain. And he definitely wasn't going to work for a giant slug who talked about eliminating people like ordering takeout. No thanks, Saitama said. Just give me the credits. Jabba's jovial demeanor cracked. No? You refuse, after I showed such generosity? His voice rose, echoing through the chamber. You dare refuse Jabba the Hutt? Yeah. Saitama held out his hand. Credits, please. You promised. The Hutt's face contorted with rage. You fool. Do you know what happens to those who refuse me? Guards, teach this human respect. 20 guards surged forward, Gamorreans with vibro-axes, Weequays with blasters, even a Wookiee with a bowcaster. They attacked as one, a coordinated assault designed to overwhelm through numbers. Blaster bolts filled the air. Vibro-axes swung for Saitama's neck. The Wookiee's quarrel, powerful enough to punch through Stormtrooper armor, flew straight at his chest. Saitama didn't move. The bolts dissipated against his skin. The axes shattered on contact. The quarrel bounced off with a ping and embedded itself in the ceiling. He looked at the guards with the same expression someone might give a particularly annoying mosquito. Then he flicked his finger. The shockwave blew every guard off their feet, sending them crashing into walls, columns, and each other. None were dead. Saitama had learned to control his strength that much. But all were unconscious or groaning in pain. The Wookiee slumped in a corner, wheezing. Boba Fett, who'd wisely stayed back, raised his hand slowly, flamethrower nozzle retracting back into his gauntlet. Jabba stared at the carnage, then at Saitama, then back at the guards. For the first time in decades, The great Jabba the Hutt felt something he'd almost forgotten: fear. "You." The Hutt's translator droid struggled with his stammering Hutties. "You are. What are you?" "I already told everyone," Saitama said, walking toward the throne. "I'm a hero. I don't work for bad guys. Now give me my credits or I'll..." A new voice cut through the throne room, cold and precise. "Or you'll what, stranger?" Everyone turned. Standing in the entrance was a figure in dark robes, their face hidden beneath a hood. But it was the weapon that drew attention: a spinning disk of red light, held horizontally before them. A double-bladed lightsaber, its crimson glow bathing the chamber in hellish light. The figure lowered their hood, revealing gray skin marked with geometric tattoos, yellow eyes that burned with dark-side corruption, and a smile that promised violence. "I am the fifth brother," the Inquisitor said, stepping into the throne room. "And you, Anomaly, have the Kurkur Emperor's attention." The fifth brother's entrance silenced the throne room completely. Even Jabba, who feared little and respected less, shifted uncomfortably on his dais. Inquisitors were the Empire's hunters, Force users twisted by the dark side, trained personally by Darth Vader to hunt down surviving Jedi. Their authority superseded local governors, crime lords, and even sector admirals. When an Inquisitor arrived, people either cooperated or disappeared. Saitama looked at the spinning red blade with the same mild curiosity he'd shown the Rancor. "That's a weird sword. Why does it spin?" The fifth brother's confident smile faltered slightly. Most beings cowered at the sight of his weapon, or at least showed fear. This bald human sounded genuinely curious, like a child asking about a toy. "It spins to intimidate, to disorient, to kill with maximum efficiency." He took a step forward, his presence radiating menace. I sensed a disturbance, not in the Force, but a void where the Force should be, an absence that shouldn't exist. And I find you, stranger, leaving destruction wherever you walk. "I didn't mean to destroy stuff," Saitama said. "Things just break easily here." "Things break easily." The Inquisitor's yellow eyes narrowed. "You destroyed an Imperial patrol speeder, 3 buildings in Mos Eisley, and Jabba's prized Rancor. Easily suggests either remarkable technology or Force mastery." He began circling Saitama, his lightsaber humming. "Yet, I sense nothing from you. No Force signature, no midi-chlorian presence. It's as if you're a hole in reality itself." Boba Fett used the distraction to slip toward the exit, his armor's servos moving silently. Several of Jabba's court followed his example, deciding that wherever an Inquisitor and an unstoppable human met, they wanted to be elsewhere. Jabba himself remained frozen on his throne, caught between 2 forces he couldn't control. "I don't know what midi-chlorians are," Saitama admitted. "Are they like bacteria?" The fifth brother stopped circling. "You don't know." He laughed, a harsh sound. "You're either the most ignorant being I've encountered, or the most dangerous. The Emperor will want you brought in for study, alive if possible, dead if necessary." His lightsaber stopped spinning, both blades extending horizontally. "I suspect it will be the latter." "I don't want to fight," Saitama said, and he meant it. The Inquisitor looked humanoid, probably had a family somewhere, maybe even thought he was doing the right thing. "I just want my credits and some food. Can't you guys just leave me alone?" "Leave you alone?" The fifth brother's voice dripped with contempt. "You're an anomaly that survived blaster fire, killed a Rancor with your bare hands, and exists outside the Force's natural order. The Empire doesn't leave anomalies alone. We study them, we weaponize them, or we eliminate them." He raised one hand, and Saitama felt nothing. The Inquisitor's eyes widened. He gestured again, more forcefully. Still nothing. Around the throne room, loose objects began to rattle. Chairs lifted from the floor, decorative weapons trembled on the walls. One of Jabba's unconscious guards floated 2 feet off the ground. But Saitama remained exactly where he was, hands in his pockets, looking bored. You should be flying across the room, the fifth brother hissed. Force push at that intensity would shatter a durasteel wall. Why aren't you moving? I told you, Saitama said patiently. I'm immune to psychic powers. Had a really strong Esper try this once. Didn't work then either. The Inquisitor's face contorted with frustration. He thrust both hands forward, channeling the full might of the dark side. The force push that erupted from his palms could have crushed a gunship. The shockwave blew past Saitama harmlessly, destroying the wall behind him and sending chunks of sandstone tumbling into the desert beyond. Saitama's cape fluttered slightly in the wind. See? Nothing? Then I'll kill you the old-fashioned way. The fifth brother leaped forward with force-enhanced speed, his double-bladed lightsaber spinning in a lethal arc. The plasma blades could cut through nearly anything. Blast doors, starship hulls, bone. They struck Saitama's outstretched hand with a sound like a bell being struck, and stopped. Saitama had caught the lightsaber between his thumb and forefinger. The plasma blade pressed against his skin, trying to cut, to burn, to pierce. Nothing happened. Not even his yellow glove was singed. He studied the weapon with interest, turning his hand slightly to examine how the energy blade was structured. Interesting, Saitama said. It's some kind of superheated plasma contained in a magnetic field? That's pretty advanced. The fifth brother pulled, trying to wrench his weapon free. It didn't budge. He ignited the force lightning then. Blue-white electricity crackling from his free hand, the same power that had broken Jedi Masters. It struck Saitama's chest and coursed over his body, looking for nervous system to fry, for muscles to seize, for a heart to stop. Saitama felt a slight tingling sensation, like static electricity. That tickles a bit more than the blasters. What are you? The Inquisitor screamed, abandoning composure entirely. He released the lightsaber, now useless in Saitama's grip, and unleashed everything he had. Force lightning poured from both hands in continuous streams. The throne room filled with the ozone smell of electrical discharge. The dark side itself seemed to concentrate around the fifth brother, feeding his rage, his fear, his desperation. And it did absolutely nothing. Saitama let the lightning wash over him for a few more seconds, then sighed. He released the lightsaber, which clattered to the floor, its blades deactivating, and started walking toward the Inquisitor. Listen, I don't want to hurt you, but you need to stop attacking me. It's not going to work. The fifth brother backpedaled, his training warring with his terror. He'd faced Jedi Masters, fought dark side cultists, survived battles that would kill normal soldiers. But this was something else, something that shouldn't exist. He reached for the Force, trying to sense any weakness, any vulnerability. There was nothing. The human was a void, not dark, not light, just absent from the Force's infinite web. It was like looking at a hole in space where reality had been cut away. You're afraid, Saitama observed, stopping a few meters away. Why? I haven't even hit you. Because you can't be hit. The fifth brother's voice cracked. You exist outside all known laws. The Force doesn't touch you. Nothing touches you. His hand moved to his belt, pulling a thermal detonator. If I cannot kill you conventionally, then I'll atomize you. This detonator is military grade. It will vaporize everything in a 20-meter radius. That's going to kill you too, Saitama pointed out. The Emperor must know about you, the threat you represent. If my death sends that message, so be it. For the Empire. The Inquisitor activated the detonator, the countdown beginning its 5-second timer. Saitama moved, not with force speed, just his normal, casual speed, which happened to be faster than the human eye could track. One moment he was standing before the Inquisitor, the next he'd plucked the detonator from the man's hand and was holding it up to examine the blinking light. "These things are dangerous," Saitama said. He crushed the detonator in his fist. The military-grade casing, designed to withstand blaster fire and survive falls from orbit, compacted into a sphere the size of a marble. The internal mechanism shorted out harmlessly. "You shouldn't carry stuff like this around. Someone could get hurt." The fifth brother collapsed to his knees, his yellow eyes wide with disbelief. All his training, all his power, all the dark side's gifts, useless against this bald human who spoke like a disappointed teacher. "What do you want?" the Inquisitor whispered. "Power? Territory? The Emperor could give you a planet, a sector. Name your price." "I already told everyone," Saitama said, genuine frustration creeping into his voice. "I want eggs, cabbage, and maybe some meat if it's on sale. And then I want to find a way home. That's it." Why is that so hard to understand? Before the fifth brother could respond, Jabba's voice boomed across the throne room. The Hutt had recovered some of his composure, recognizing opportunity in the Inquisitor's defeat. "You see, Inquisitor? This human is beyond your Empire's reach, beyond the Force itself. Perhaps the Emperor should consider negotiations, peaceful coexistence. After all, the human wants simple things: food, purpose, things I can provide where your Empire only offers threats." The fifth brother's hand moved to his comm unit, fingers trembling. "Lord Vader must know. He'll understand. He'll know how to..." "How to what?" Saitama interrupted. "Fight me. I don't want to fight this Vader guy either. I'm not interested in your Empire or your wars or any of this." He looked around the throne room, at the unconscious guards, the destroyed wall, the terrified courtiers, the kneeling Inquisitor. "I just want to buy groceries and go home. Is there anyone on this planet who can help with that?" Silence. Then, from the throne room entrance, a familiar voice. "Perhaps I can." Ben Kenobi stepped into the chamber, his simple robes in stark contrast to the opulence around him. He moved past the fifth brother without fear, though the Inquisitor's eyes tracked him with sudden, intense focus. "You. I know you. The report said a Force user helped the anomaly in Mos Eisley. An old Jedi. They said you were dead, killed during the Purge." "Many Jedi died," Ben said evenly. "But not all. And I'm not here as a Jedi. I'm here as someone who might understand what this young man needs." He turned to Saitama. "You're not from this galaxy. Probably not from this dimension. You want to go home, but you don't know how. Am I correct?" Saitama nodded. "Yeah. I was fighting monsters, punched something really hard, and ended up here. I don't even know where here is." "Here is a galaxy far from yours," Ben said. "A galaxy bound by the Force, an energy field that connects all living things. But you exist outside that field. You're like..." He paused, searching for an analogy. "Like a stone in a river. The water flows around you but never touches you. That's why the Inquisitor couldn't affect you. Why the Force doesn't sense your presence." "Can you send me home?" Saitama asked hopefully. Ben's expression turned sympathetic. "I don't know. The Force can do many things. But crossing dimensional barriers? That's beyond even the most powerful Jedi Masters I knew. However, he glanced at the fifth brother, still kneeling, still clutching his comm unit. The Empire has resources we don't. Ancient Sith knowledge, experimental technology. If anyone in this galaxy could find a way to send you home, it would be them. Or the rebels, who have access to different resources. Then I'll ask them, Saitama said simply. Which one's closer? The fifth brother's laugh was bitter. You want to join the Empire? After humiliating me? After proving our power means nothing against you? Lord Vader will kill you, or try to, and unlike me, he won't fail. I don't want to join anyone, Saitama clarified. I just want information. If this Vader guy can tell me how to get home, I'll listen. If not, I'll ask someone else. Ben stepped forward, his voice urgent. You don't understand what you're suggesting. The Empire isn't a research institution. It's a tyrannical regime. They enslave species, destroy planets, hunt down anyone with force sensitivity. If you go to them seeking help, they'll try to use you, to weaponize you. They can try, Saitama said with a shrug. Won't work. Nobody can make me do anything I don't want to do. The absolute confidence in those words sent a chill through the room. Because everyone present, Jabba, the fifth brother, Ben, even Boba Fett watching from the shadows, realized it was true. This human couldn't be threatened, couldn't be hurt, couldn't be killed by any means they possessed. He was completely free in a galaxy where freedom was the rarest commodity. The fifth brother slowly stood, his hand still on his comm. If you truly seek the Empire's help, I can arrange an audience. But I warn you, Lord Vader is not like me. He's killed beings far more powerful than I am. And the Emperor's power is beyond anything you've seen in this galaxy. That's fine, Saitama said. If they're strong, maybe I'll finally get a decent fight. And if they can help me get home, even better. He turned to Jabba. What about my credits? The Hutt gestured weakly, and Bib Fortuna scurried forward with a credit chip, placing it in Saitama's hand like he was feeding a dangerous animal. 10,000 credits, as promised, and no hard feelings about the guards or the threats. Business is business, yes? Saitama pocketed the chip. Sure. Where's the nearest place that sells food? There's a supply depot 3 blocks from here, Ben said quickly, sensing an opportunity. I'll take you there, and perhaps we can discuss your situation more privately. He gave the fifth brother a meaningful look, away from Imperial entanglements. The Inquisitor's jaw clenched. The Empire will contact you, Anomaly. Be ready. He retrieved his lightsaber, his pride demanding he leave with some dignity intact. And know this, Lord Vader has killed Force users who could predict the future, manipulate reality itself. Your immunity to the Force may not save you from his wrath. Okay, Saitama said agreeably. Thanks for the warning. As the Inquisitor swept from the throne room, his comm unit already active and transmitting reports, Ben guided Saitama toward the exit. Behind them, Jabba's court slowly returned to life, whispers spreading about the human who defeated a Rancor, humiliated an Inquisitor, and remained completely unbothered by any of it. Outside, the twin suns were setting again, painting the desert in shades of orange and red. Ben walked beside Saitama in silence for a moment, then spoke quietly. You've attracted very dangerous attention. The fifth brother will report to Vader. Vader will inform the Emperor, and then you'll face a choice you may not fully understand. What choice? Saitama asked. Whether to fight for the Empire, the rebels, or yourself. Ben's eyes were distant, remembering. This galaxy is at war, not just between factions, but between philosophies, the light and the dark, freedom and control. You exist outside that conflict, but you won't be allowed to remain neutral. Both sides will try to claim you. Saitama thought about this as they walked through the cooling desert. What if I don't want to be claimed? Then you'll have to fight. Ben smiled sadly. And somehow, I suspect that's what you've been hoping for all along. In the distance, a Star Destroyer's running lights appeared in orbit, visible even in daylight. The fifth brother's message had been received. Darth Vader was coming to Tatooine. The supply depot was a squat, prefabricated structure that smelled of preservatives and recycled air. Saitama bought eggs, or what passed for eggs on Tatooine, pale blue orbs from some desert bird, along with a vegetable that looked vaguely like cabbage and some dried meat of uncertain origin. The vendor, a nervous Celestin, had accepted his credits without question and asked no questions about the Rancor blood still flaking off his boots. Ben had rented a small dwelling on the outskirts of Mos Eisley, a modest home carved into the sandstone with thick walls that kept out the worst of the day's heat. He'd invited Saitama to rest there while considering his options. Though Saitama suspected the old man just wanted to keep talking about the Force and why Saitama's immunity to it was so unprecedented. In all my years, Ben said, heating water for tea on a small burner, I've never encountered anyone the Force simply doesn't touch. Force users can shield themselves, block attacks, but you're not resisting the Force. It's as if you don't exist in the same reality as it. Saitama was examining his eggs, holding one up to the light. Are these safe to eat? They're a weird color. Perfectly safe. Gorg eggs are a staple on Tatooine. Ben poured the tea, some local herb that smelled faintly medicinal. You're not concerned about the Inquisitor's report? About Vader coming? Should I be? Saitama cracked an egg into a borrowed pan, watching it sizzle. You said he's strong. That's good. I haven't had a decent fight since I got here. That Rancor went down in one hit. The Inquisitor couldn't even scratch me. Maybe this Vader will be different. Ben's expression grew troubled. Vader isn't just strong. He's something else. I knew him once, before he became what he is now. He was a Jedi, perhaps the most gifted I'd ever seen. But the dark side consumed him, twisted him into the Emperor's enforcer. He's killed hundreds of Jedi, destroyed entire fleets, crushed rebellions with his bare hands through the Force. He paused, choosing his words carefully. And your immunity might not matter if he decides to simply collapse the building around you, or deprive you of air, or drop you into a star. He can do that? Saitama looked up with interest. The Force can do many things, and Vader has mastered the dark side's most destructive aspects. Ben sipped his tea. But there's something you should understand. The Empire won't help you get home. They'll study you, try to replicate your abilities, and when they fail, they'll either imprison you or try to destroy you. The Emperor tolerates no power he cannot control. Saitama flipped his egg, which was cooking unevenly in the unfamiliar pan. What about the rebels you mentioned? Would they help? Possibly. The Rebel Alliance fights for freedom, for a galaxy where beings can choose their own path. They have access to ancient temples, Force artifacts, even some captured Imperial technology. If anyone could research dimensional travel. Ben trailed off. But they'd also want something in return. Your power could turn the tide of entire campaigns. They'd ask you to fight. I don't mind fighting, Saitama said, sliding the egg onto a plate. I'm a hero. That's what I do. Fight monsters, save people. But I don't know anything about your empire or rebels. Who's good? Who's bad? The question was so earnest, so genuinely confused, that Ben had to suppress a smile. It's not that simple. The Empire claims to bring order to a chaotic galaxy, and in some ways, they have. No more separatist wars, no more corporate military forces. But they achieve this through fear, oppression, and genocide. They've enslaved entire species, destroyed planets that resisted, hunted down the Jedi who once protected the innocent. So, they're like a monster organization, Saitama concluded, taking a bite of his egg. It tasted strange, but edible. In a sense. And the rebels are those fighting back. Smugglers, soldiers, idealists who remember what the galaxy was before the Empire. They're outnumbered, outgunned, but they refuse to surrender. Ben's eyes grew distant. I fought in the Clone Wars, before the Empire. Watched the Republic fall. Watched friends become enemies. I've been hiding here ever since, watching over someone important while the galaxy burns around us. Why hide? Saitama asked between bites. If you're strong with this Force thing, why not fight? Because some battles aren't meant to be fought yet. The boy I'm protecting, he's our last hope. When the time comes, he'll face Vader. And perhaps, if the Force wills it, he'll redeem what was lost. Ben shook his head. But that's years away. For now, I stay hidden, and the Empire believes all Jedi are dead. A distant rumble interrupted their conversation. Both men looked toward the window, where the sky had darkened with something other than night. A star destroyer hung in the atmosphere, its wedge-shaped bulk blotting out stars. Smaller vessels, TIE fighters, screamed overhead in formation, their distinctive whine echoing across the desert. He's here, Ben said quietly. Vader arrived faster than I expected. Saitama finished his egg and stood, brushing crumbs from his jumpsuit. Should we go meet him? You don't understand. He's not here to talk. The fifth brother reported an anomaly that resists the Force. Vader will treat you as a threat to be eliminated. Ben moved to a chest in the corner, pulling out something wrapped in cloth. When he unwrapped it, blue light filled the room. It was a lightsaber, not red like the Inquisitors, but a brilliant azure that seemed to hum with purpose. Ben held it carefully, reverently, like greeting an old friend. I haven't held this since the day his father died, Ben murmured. Swore I'd never fight again. But if Vader comes for you, he'll sense me. He'll know Obi-Wan Kenobi still lives. And then everything I've worked to protect will be at risk. Obi-Wan. Saitama tested the name. That's you? It was. Now I'm just Ben, a hermit in the desert. He extinguished the lightsaber, the room returning to shadow. You should leave, stranger. Take your credits, find a smuggler willing to fly you off-world. Get as far from Tatooine as possible before Vader's forces lock down the planet. But he might know about dimensional travel, Saitama protested. He's with the Empire, and you said they have ancient knowledge. If I run now, I might not get another chance to ask. Obi-Wan stared at him, then laughed. A short, helpless sound. You're actually going to confront Vader, voluntarily, to ask for his help. He shook his head. You really are from another galaxy? Anyone raised here would know that approaching Darth Vader is suicide. I can't die, Saitama said matter-of-factly. I'm too strong for that, so I'll just ask him my questions. If he attacks like the Inquisitor did, I'll defend myself. But I don't want to fight if I don't have to. Outside, the sound of repulsor engines grew louder. Imperial landing craft descended toward Mos Eisley, disgorging squads of stormtroopers who began establishing checkpoints throughout the city. Obi-Wan moved to the window, watching with the practiced eye of someone who'd witnessed countless military operations. They're setting up a perimeter. Classic Imperial containment. Seal the city, search building by building until they find what they're looking for. Which is you. He turned back to Saitama. You have perhaps an hour before they reach this sector. What will you do? Saitama washed his plate in the small sink, taking his time. I'll wait. If they want to talk to me, they can come here. No point making it difficult for them. They won't want to talk, Obi-Wan insisted. Vader will try to kill you, and when that fails, because I suspect it will, he'll try to capture you. His Star Destroyer has holding cells designed for Force users. Technology meant to suppress abilities. What if your immunity doesn't extend to physical restraints? Then I'll break them, Saitama said with a shrug. I've broken out of prison before. Well, tried to. The place collapsed before I actually escaped, but still. The casual admission made Obi-Wan pause. You've been imprisoned? In your own galaxy? Sort of. Different hero organizations don't always get along. Some tried to arrest me for being too strong, said I was dangerous. Then a monster attacked, and they let me out to fight it. Saitama dried his hands on his cape. It's complicated. But the point is, I'm not worried about being captured. Nothing can hold me if I want to leave. A new sound cut through the evening air. Deeper than the TIE fighters, more ominous than the landing craft. It was a rhythmic mechanical breathing, amplified and echoing, accompanied by heavy footsteps that seemed to shake the ground. Obi-Wan's face went pale. He's here. Vader's in the city already. His hand moved to his lightsaber, instinctively. He must have sensed me. After all these years, he knows I'm alive. Can he sense you through the Force? Saitama asked. Even though you're hiding? I'm not hiding well enough, apparently. The Force binds those who were once close, master and apprentice, teacher and student. He feels me, and I feel... Obi-Wan's voice caught. I feel his pain, his anger. It's like a wound in the Force that never heals. The mechanical breathing grew closer. Stormtroopers moved through the streets below, their formation parting for something massive. Through the window, Saitama caught his first glimpse of Darth Vader. He was taller than Saitama expected, well over 2 meters, encased in black armor that reflected the city's lights like polished obsidian. A helmet concealed his face, its angular design both skull-like and insectoid. The cape that flowed behind him made Saitama's look small by comparison. But it was the breathing that drew attention. Artificial, labored, the sound of lungs kept alive by machinery rather than living normally. He's wearing a life support suit, Obi-Wan explained quietly. What Vader became, what was done to him, his body is more machine than man now. The suit keeps him alive. The dark side keeps him strong. Vader stopped in the middle of the street, his helmeted head turning slowly as if scanning the buildings. When his gaze settled on Obi-Wan's dwelling, he went completely still. The breathing was the only sound, in, out, mechanical and inevitable as death. Then he raised one hand, and the door to Obi-Wan's home exploded inward, not with fire or explosives, with pure telekinetic force. The metal and wood disintegrated, pieces flying inward in a deadly spray. Obi-Wan ignited his lightsaber, deflecting the debris. Saitama just stood there, letting the shrapnel bounce off him harmlessly. Vader entered, his massive frame filling the doorway. His breathing echoed in the small room. When he spoke, his voice was deep, processed through his helmet's vocabulator, devoid of human warmth. Kenobi, I sensed you the moment I entered orbit. After all these years, you cannot hide from me. The black helmet turned slightly, acknowledging Saitama's presence. And you, the anomaly, the void where the Force should flow. A pause. Curious. Saitama raised his hand in greeting. "Hi, I'm Saitama. I need to ask you some questions about dimensional travel. Do you know anything about that?" Vader's helmet tilted, processing this bizarre request. Behind him, stormtroopers filed into the room, rifles raised. The Dark Lord raised one hand, and they stopped, waiting. "You stand before Darth Vader?" the Dark Lord said slowly. "And you ask about dimensional travel? The fifth brother reported you humiliated him, survived his attacks, exist outside the Force's touch." The mechanical breathing continued. "And yet you greet me as if we were meeting in a cantina. Explain yourself, Anomaly, before I decide whether you live or die." Saitama scratched his bald head. "It's kind of a long story. I punched something really hard in my universe and ended up here. I'm trying to get home, and someone said the Empire might have information that could help. So, do you?" The room went silent, except for Vader's breathing. Even Obi-Wan seemed stunned by Saitama's directness. The stormtroopers exchanged glances, clearly uncertain how to process this. Finally, Vader spoke, and there was something in his processed voice that might have been amusement or irritation. It was impossible to tell. "Come," Vader commanded. "You will accompany me to my Star Destroyer. The Emperor wishes to see you. He will decide your fate." The Dark Lord's hand moved in a gesture, and Saitama felt nothing. But the floor beneath his feet began to crack, stone and metal groaning as invisible pressure built. "And if I refuse?" Saitama asked. Vader's breathing intensified slightly. "Then I will demonstrate why I am called the Empire's Fist." The floor didn't just crack, it shattered. Duracrete and sandstone exploded downward as Vader unleashed the full power of a Force Crush, an ability that could compress a battle tank into scrap metal. The entire foundation of Obi-Wan's dwelling collapsed, sending furniture, walls, and support beams crashing down into a newly formed crater. Saitama stood on empty air, looking down at the destruction with mild annoyance. That was kind of rude. This was someone's home. He wasn't floating through any power of his own. He'd simply jumped when the floor gave way, and gravity hadn't finished pulling him down yet. When he did land, it was on the rubble with a soft thump, completely unharmed. Obi-Wan had leaped clear using the Force, landing in the street with his lightsaber ignited. The stormtroopers had scattered, several buried under debris. Vader stood motionless, his helmet fixed on Saitama. The breathing continued, in, out, in, out. But there was a tension in the Dark Lord's posture now. Calculation, recalibration. "Impossible," Vader said. "Nothing survives a direct Force crush. Nothing organic." "I'm organic," Saitama confirmed, brushing dust from his cape. "I'm just really durable. Look, can we skip the fighting? I asked you a simple question. Do you know about dimensional travel or not?" Vader's response was to extend both hands. The rubble around Saitama, chunks of stone weighing hundreds of kilograms, lifted into the air and accelerated toward him from every direction. It was a killing box, designed to pulverize anything caught inside through sheer kinetic force. Saitama sighed. When the dust cleared, he was standing in the same spot, surrounded by a perfect sphere of rubble that had stopped mere centimeters from his body. He'd caught each piece, dozens of them, moving at lethal speeds, and simply held them in place. Now he released them, letting the stones clatter harmlessly to the ground. "That's not going to work either," Saitama said. "The Inquisitor already tried this kind of stuff. Can we please just talk?" Vader's breathing quickened. Anger, or perhaps something else. The Dark Lord drew his lightsaber, the crimson blade igniting with a snap hiss that cut through the evening air. Behind him, more stormtroopers arrived, forming a perimeter. An AT-ST walker stomped into view, its blaster cannons tracking Saitama. "Open fire," Vader commanded. The AT-ST's cannons roared, spewing bolts of concentrated plasma. The Stormtroopers added their rifle fire, dozens of red streaks converging on Saitama from multiple angles. The bombardment was sustained, devastating, enough firepower to level a reinforced bunker. Saitama stood in the center of the barrage, waiting for it to end. The bolts splashed against his body like rain against stone. His jumpsuit didn't even singe. When the firing stopped, weapons overheating, power packs depleted, he was completely unharmed. "Are you done?" Saitama asked. Vader didn't answer. He moved with shocking speed for something so large, closing the distance between them in a force-enhanced leap. His lightsaber came down in an overhead strike that could bisect a durasteel door. The blade met Saitama's raised hand and stopped, the plasma sizzling against skin that wouldn't burn. "Your lightsaber doesn't work on me either," Saitama said, holding Vader's blade between his fingers like the Inquisitor's. "That's the third one that hasn't worked. Are there stronger versions?" Vader pulled, trying to free his weapon. It didn't move. He pushed, channeling the force into pure kinetic energy behind his strike. Saitama's hand didn't budge a millimeter. The Dark Lord's breathing accelerated further, the mechanical rhythm breaking slightly, a sign of stress in the life support system. Then Vader released the lightsaber and struck with his fist. It was a blow powered by cybernetic servos and the dark side, a punch that had shattered clone trooper armor and caved-in droid chassis. It connected with Saitama's chest with a metallic clang, the impact echoing across the ruined dwelling. Saitama looked down at Vader's fist, still pressed against his chest, then back up at the black helmet. "That one I actually felt. A little. Are you part robot?" "I am more than you can comprehend," Vader growled. He wrenched his fist back, servos whining. "You are an aberration, an insult to the natural order. The Emperor will dissect you to understand how you exist." "I don't want to be dissected," Saitama said reasonably. "I want information about dimensional travel. If you don't have it, just say so and I'll ask someone else." "There is no one else." Vader's rage finally broke through his controlled demeanor. "The Empire controls all knowledge, all technology. You will submit to the Emperor's will or you will be destroyed." He raised both hands, and the very air around Saitama began to compress. This wasn't a force crush aimed at his body. This was an attempt to create a vacuum, to remove the oxygen from the space he occupied. Vader was trying to suffocate him. Saitama felt the pressure change and instinctively held his breath. He'd trained underwater before, could hold his breath for several minutes without difficulty. But more importantly, he recognized what Vader was trying to do, and it annoyed him. "Okay, now you're being actively hostile," Saitama said, his voice somehow carrying despite the vacuum. "I didn't want to fight you. I just wanted information. But if you're going to keep attacking me..." He flicked Vader's chest plate. The Dark Lord flew backward, propelled by force that had nothing to do with the Force. He crashed through the AT-ST walker, through its cockpit and out the other side, through a building wall, and finally embedded himself in a second building's foundation. The walker collapsed, split cleanly in half. Stormtroopers dove for cover. Saitama walked forward slowly, stepping over debris. "I held back a lot just then. But you need to stop attacking me. I don't want to hurt you." Vader extracted himself from the wall, his armor cracked but intact. Sparks flew from damaged servos in his right arm. His helmet's left optical sensor flickered. The breathing, erratic now, sounded almost like gasping. But he didn't fall, didn't surrender. Instead, he raised his hand one more time, And this time the target wasn't Saitama. Obi-Wan, who'd been trying to help civilians evacuate the area, suddenly found himself lifted off his feet. Vader's invisible grip closed around his throat, choking off air. The old Jedi's lightsaber fell from his hand as he clawed at his neck. "You will come with me," Vader said to Saitama, his processed voice tight with pain, "or I will kill Kenobi, slowly, as I should have done years ago." Saitama looked at Obi-Wan, dangling in midair, face turning red. Then back at Vader. "That's a hostage situation. I've dealt with those before." "Then you know how they end," Vader hissed. "Submit or he dies." "Yeah, they usually end with me rescuing the hostage and stopping the villain," Saitama said. He moved. To Vader, it seemed impossible. One moment Saitama was 10 meters away. The next he was directly in front of him, one hand gripping Vader's wrist, the one maintaining the force choke. The pressure was incredible, enough to crack durasteel. Vader felt servos in his hand beginning to fail, the cybernetic components stressed beyond their design parameters. "Let him go," Saitama said quietly. There was something different in his voice now. Not anger exactly, but a firmness that suggested this wasn't a request. Vader tried to maintain the choke through sheer will, but his hand was being crushed. He released Obi-Wan, who dropped to the ground gasping. Immediately, Vader's free hand came up, unleashing force lightning directly into Saitama's face at point-blank range. The electricity was more intense than the Fifth Brothers, fueled by years of dark side mastery and pure hatred. It lit up the street like a lightning storm, arcing between Saitama and Vader in crackling torrents. Stormtroopers' helmet optics overloaded. Electronics in nearby buildings shorted out. Saitama felt tingling, slightly stronger than before. That tickles more than the last guy's version, but it still doesn't hurt. He squeezed Vader's wrist slightly. The cybernetic hand shattered, not just damaged, completely destroyed. Durasteel fingers crushed like aluminum, servos pulverized, synthetic ligaments torn. The stump sparked and leaked hydraulic fluid. Vader's breathing hitched, actual pain breaking through the dark side's dulling influence. Saitama released him immediately, looking horrified. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I was just trying to make you stop attacking. Are you okay?" Vader staggered backward, cradling his ruined hand. The Dark Lord had experienced unimaginable pain throughout his life. His body burned on Mustafar, his limbs severed, his reconstruction into the suit. But this casual destruction of his cybernetic limb, done without malice or even real effort, struck him differently, because it proved what he'd been denying. This being was genuinely beyond him. "What are you?" Vader's voice was quieter now. The rage burned away, leaving only questions. "I'm a hero," Saitama said, as he'd said to everyone else. "Just a hero for fun. I don't know why I'm so strong. I don't know how I broke through dimensions. I'm just trying to find a way home so I can get back to my life." He looked at Vader's damaged hand. "I really am sorry about that. You were choking that old guy and I panicked." Obi-Wan had recovered enough to retrieve his lightsaber, though he made no move to attack. He watched Vader and Saitama with an expression of stunned disbelief. Around them, stormtroopers remained frozen, weapons lowered, unsure what to do when their unstoppable enforcer had been stopped. Vader's helmet turned toward his Star Destroyer, visible in orbit above. A decision was being made behind that expressionless mask. Finally, he spoke, his processed voice carrying across the destroyed street. "You have defeated me, humiliated me, destroyed Imperial property and troops." The breathing continued, mechanical and steady despite the damage. "By all rights, I should call down an orbital bombardment. Turn this entire city to glass, kill you, Kenobi, and everyone else through simple annihilation. Would that even work? Saitama asked. No, Vader admitted. I suspect you would survive even that. Which leaves me with only one option. He gestured with his intact hand, and a Lambda-class shuttle descended from the sky, its wings folding as it landed in the cleared street. Come with me, not as a prisoner, as a consultant. The Emperor has resources you cannot imagine, knowledge spanning millennia. If anyone in this galaxy knows of dimensional travel, it would be Darth Sidious. Really? Saitama perked up. He knows about that stuff. Perhaps. He is the most powerful being in the known galaxy. He has studied secrets the Jedi never dreamed of. Vader's helmet tilted slightly. But understand, the Emperor does not give freely. He will demand something in return. And what he demands, few can refuse. What if I refuse? Saitama asked. Then you remain stranded in this galaxy, searching aimlessly while both Empire and Rebels hunt you, trying to weaponize you or destroy you. Vader climbed the shuttle's ramp, his movement stiff from damage. At least with the Emperor, you might find your answers. And I suspect you are curious to meet someone who might actually be strong enough to fight you properly. That last sentence made Saitama pause. The possibility of a real fight, a genuine challenge, flickered in his eyes. It was the same look he'd had when Boros promised him a worthy battle. The same desperate hope that someone, somewhere, could make him feel alive again. Okay, Saitama said. I'll meet your Emperor. But if he attacks me like everyone else has, I'm defending myself. The Emperor is far more subtle than I am, Vader said, settling into the shuttle's command seat. And far more dangerous. Come. We leave for Coruscant immediately. Obi-Wan stepped forward, one hand raised. Saitama, don't. You don't understand what you're walking into. The Emperor is pure darkness. He'll corrupt you, use you, twist everything you are into a weapon. Saitama looked back at the old Jedi. Thanks for the food and the place to stay. But I need to try this. If this Emperor guy knows how to get me home, I have to ask. He paused. And don't worry. I've dealt with bad guys trying to corrupt me before. It never works. I'm too stubborn. He climbed into the shuttle. Vader watched him settle into a seat, this impossible being who'd done what no Jedi had managed since the Empire's rise, defeat Vader in single combat. The Dark Lord activated his comm. Prepare a course for Coruscant. Inform the Emperor I am returning with an interesting specimen. He glanced at Saitama, who was examining the shuttle's interior with tourist-like curiosity. And requisition a medical droid. My hand requires replacement. The shuttle's ramp closed, engines igniting. As it lifted off, Obi-Wan stood alone in the ruined street, watching it climb toward the Star Destroyer above. Around him, Stormtroopers began withdrawing. Their mission parameters suddenly changed. The old Jedi deactivated his lightsaber, slipping back into the shadows as he'd done for years. But this time, he had a transmission to send. The Rebel Alliance needed to know what was coming. An alliance between the Empire and something that existed outside the Force's touch could shift the balance of power irrevocably. And if the Emperor succeeded in controlling Saitama, Obi-Wan didn't want to imagine what that would mean for the galaxy. The Star Destroyer's hangar was vast enough to swallow a city block. Saitama stood on the shuttle's ramp, watching stormtroopers march in perfect formation. TIE fighters undergo maintenance by crew in black uniforms, and officers bark orders that echoed across the metal expanse. Everything was gray, white, or black. No color, no warmth, just efficient Imperial sterility. Impressive, isn't it? Vader's processed voice came from behind him. A medical droid had already begun preliminary repairs on his shattered hand, though the Dark Lord had waved it away to escort Saitama personally. The Executor-class Star Destroyer. 6 kilometers of firepower and fear, one of only a handful in the fleet. It's really big, Saitama agreed. How do you afford to run something like this? The fuel costs alone must be crazy. The question seemed to confuse Vader briefly. The Empire controls thousands of systems. Resources are not a concern. He gestured toward a corridor. Come, we'll reach Coruscant in 12 hours. Until then, you will be given quarters, food if you require it. The Emperor wishes you rested before the audience. They walked through corridors lined with stormtroopers who snapped to attention as Vader passed. Officers pressed themselves against walls, avoiding eye contact with the Dark Lord. Saitama noticed the fear that radiated from everyone they encountered. Not respect, not admiration, but pure terror, barely controlled. They're really scared of you, Saitama observed. Fear is useful. It maintains order. Vader's breathing punctuated his words. The Empire rules through strength and discipline. Those who serve well are rewarded. Those who fail. He didn't finish the sentence, but the implication hung in the recycled air. Sounds like a villain organization, Saitama said bluntly. Vader stopped walking. Several nearby officers froze, expecting violence. But the Dark Lord simply turned his helmet toward Saitama, studying him. The Jedi would have you believe the Empire is evil, that we oppress for pleasure. But we brought stability to a galaxy tearing itself apart. No more separatist wars, no more corporate armies. One rule, one order, one vision for the future. Built on fear, Saitama countered. Back home, I fought organizations like that. Ones that said they were bringing order but really just wanted power. They always ended up being the villains. And yet you come with me willingly, Vader noted, knowing what the Empire is. Why? Saitama shrugged. Because you might have information I need, and because running away doesn't solve anything. If your Emperor knows about dimensional travel, I'll listen. If he tries to force me to do bad stuff, I'll refuse. It's simple. Nothing is simple with the Emperor. Vader resumed walking. He sees possibilities others miss, paths through the future that twist and converge. He has ruled for decades because he understands power in all its forms. They reached a door that hissed open. These are your quarters. Rest, eat. We will summon you when we arrive. The room was Spartan but functional. A bed bolted to the floor, a small desk, a refresher unit, and a viewport showing the streaked stars of hyperspace. Saitama sat on the bed, which was harder than it looked, and stared at the viewport. 12 hours to Coruscant, 12 hours to meet someone who might actually know how to send him home. A soft chime announced a visitor. The door opened to reveal a protocol droid carrying a tray. Greetings, sir. Lord Vader ordered sustenance be brought to you. The kitchen staff prepared what they believed would be acceptable. The droid set down the tray. Some kind of meat, vegetables that looked almost Earth-like, and a glass of blue milk. Thanks, Saitama said, surprised by the consideration. He ate slowly, thinking about everything that had happened since he'd arrived. The Jawas, the Cantina fight, Jabba's Rancor, the Inquisitor, Vader himself. All of them had attacked him, tried to use him, or demanded his service. Only Obi-Wan had treated him like a person rather than a weapon. And now he was heading toward the heart of an empire that ruled through fear, to meet an emperor who was apparently even more dangerous than Vader. The smart move would be to escape, find the rebels, ask them for help instead. But Saitama had never been particularly smart about these things. He was straightforward, almost aggressively so. Someone said they might have answers, so he'd go ask. If they tried something, he'd deal with it. He finished eating and lay back on the bed, hands behind his head, watching hyperspace stream past. After a few minutes, he fell asleep. Not because he was tired, but because there was nothing else to do. He woke to the ship lurching out of hyperspace. Through the viewport, a planet filled his vision, covered in city lights that stretched from pole to pole, with no visible oceans or forests. Just endless urban sprawl, as if someone had paved over an entire world and called it progress. Coruscant, a voice said from the doorway. An Imperial officer stood there, his gray uniform immaculate, his expression carefully neutral. Lord Vader requests your presence on the bridge. We're beginning our approach. Saitama followed the officer through more corridors, these ones busier as the crew prepared for orbital insertion. They reached at the bridge, a raised platform dominated by viewports that showed Coruscant growing larger. Vader stood at the center, his cape flowing despite the lack of wind, watching his homeworld with an intensity that suggested complicated history. The Emperor awaits in the Imperial Palace, Vader said without turning. He has cleared his schedule to meet you personally, an honor few receive. The Dark Lord's helmet turned slightly. When you stand before him, you will show respect. You will not attack, regardless of provocation. And you will remember that his power extends far beyond simple force abilities. What kind of power? Saitama asked. The kind that toppled a 1,000-year-old republic and rebuilt it as an empire. The kind that corrupted the greatest Jedi who ever lived. Vader's artificial breathing quickened slightly. The kind that sees the future and bends it to his will. Do not underestimate Darth Sidious, Saitama. He is the most dangerous being you will ever encounter. The Star Destroyer descended through Coruscant's atmosphere, passing layers of air traffic that parted for the Imperial vessel. They landed on a private platform near the Imperial Palace, a massive structure that combined ancient Jedi architecture with newer, more imposing additions. Vader led Saitama down the ramp, flanked by crimson-armored royal guards who fell into step without a word. The palace interior was designed to intimidate. Corridors stretched impossibly high, lined with statues of past Sith Lords. Floors polished to mirror brightness reflected everyone who walked them. And everywhere, the sensation of being watched. Security cameras, hidden guards, and something else. Something that pressed against the mind like a vast, invisible weight. Do you feel it? Vader asked quietly as they climbed a grand staircase. Feel what? Saitama looked around, confused. Exactly. Vader's voice carried a note of something that might have been satisfaction. The Emperor's presence in the Force. It permeates this entire palace, a constant pressure that bends even the strongest wills. But you feel nothing. Your immunity is absolute. They reached a set of massive doors engraved with the Imperial crest. The royal guards took positions on either side. Vader stood before the doors, his hand hovering near the access panel, then turned to face Saitama one last time. Whatever happens in this room, the Dark Lord said, remember that you came willingly. The Emperor will use that, twist it, make you believe leaving was always your choice, even as he chains you to his purposes. A pause. I was once like you, powerful, confident, certain I could resist corruption. I was wrong. I'm not you, Saitama said simply. And I'm not interested in power or corruption. I just want to go home. Then may you succeed where I failed. Vader activated the panel, and the doors groaned open. The throne room beyond was circular, its walls lined with transparisteel windows that offered a panoramic view of Coruscant's cityscape. But the room's focus was the throne itself, a simple seat atop a raised platform, bathed in shadows despite the city lights beyond. And sitting there, shrouded in black robes, was a figure that radiated wrongness. Emperor Palpatine was elderly, his face deeply lined, his eyes sunken beneath heavy brows. But those eyes glowed with yellow light, Sith eyes, burning with dark side corruption. When he smiled, it was the expression of a predator watching prey wander into a carefully prepared trap. "Welcome," Palpatine said, his voice a rasping whisper that somehow carried across the chamber. "I am most curious to meet the being who exists outside the Force. Come closer, young man. Let me see what has caused such disruption to my empire." Saitama walked forward, his footsteps echoing on the polished floor. Vader remained by the doors, a silent guardian. The royal guards stood motionless, their force pikes humming with energy. And the Emperor leaned forward on his throne, studying Saitama with an intensity that would have made most beings tremble. "Fascinating," Palpatine murmured. "Lord Vader's report suggested impossibility, yet here you stand, a void in the Force, an absence where presence should be." His gnarled fingers tapped the throne's armrest. "Tell me, Saitama, may I call you Saitama? How does one become immune to the fundamental fabric of reality?" "I don't know," Saitama answered honestly. "I just trained really hard, did push-ups, sit-ups, and ran every day. Then I became strong enough that nothing could hurt me." The Emperor's expression didn't change, but something flickered in those yellow eyes. "Trained? How quaint. And this training broke your natural limits? Made you impervious to the Force itself?" He stood, his robes rustling, and descended from the throne with surprising grace for someone so old. "I have spent decades studying power in all its forms. The Force, technology, politics, manipulation. Yet you suggest that simple physical exercise achieved what no Sith sorcery, no ancient ritual, no dark side mastery ever could." "I guess so," Saitama said with a shrug. "It took 3 years, and I went bald, but it worked." Palpatine circled Saitama slowly, examining him from every angle. The old Sith's presence was oppressive, not in the physical sense, but something deeper. Reality itself seemed to bend around the Emperor, as if he existed slightly outside normal space-time. Yet none of it touched Saitama. The bald hero stood exactly as he always did, hands in pockets, expression bored. "Lord Vader could not harm you," Palpatine observed. "His Force abilities proved useless, his lightsaber ineffective. Even his cybernetic strength failed to impress you." The Emperor stopped circling, standing directly before Saitama. "And yet, you came here willingly, seeking knowledge. Dimensional travel, I'm told?" "Yeah. I punched through dimensions by accident and ended up on a planet called Tatooine. I want to go home. Vader said you might know how." "I might," Palpatine admitted, returning to his throne. "The Sith have explored many dark corners of reality. Ancient holocrons speak of tears in space, of portals between worlds, of rituals that bend the fabric of existence. Such knowledge is dangerous, costly. Those who sought to master dimensional travel often paid terrible prices, their sanity, their souls, their very existence erased from history." "But it's possible?" Saitama pressed hopefully. "Perhaps." The Emperor steepled his fingers. "But first, I must understand what you are. Your immunity to the Force suggests either dimensional displacement, your origin universe operates under different physical laws, or something more fundamental, a natural evolutionary defense against reality manipulation." His yellow eyes gleamed. Either way, you represent something unprecedented, something valuable. I'm not valuable, Saitama said flatly. I'm just a guy who wants to go home. Everyone is valuable to someone, Palpatine countered. Lord Vader is valuable because he enforces my will across the galaxy. The Inquisitors are valuable because they hunt my enemies. You, Saitama, could be valuable beyond measure. A being who cannot be stopped by the Force, who cannot be killed by conventional means, who could walk into any battlefield and emerge victorious. The smile widened. Imagine serving the Empire, crushing rebellions with a thought, facing entire fleets alone. You could bring order to the galaxy simply by existing, by demonstrating the futility of resistance. I'm not interested in serving the Empire, Saitama said. I told Vader, and I'll tell you, I don't work for bad guys. The temperature in the throne room seemed to drop. Palpatine's smile never wavered, but something changed in the air. Bad guys. Such a simplistic worldview. Good and evil, heroes and villains. The Jedi thought the same way, and where are they now? He gestured to Vader. Dead, scattered, reduced to hiding in the Outer Rim while my empire brings actual peace to trillions. Peace through fear isn't real peace, Saitama countered. It's just everyone being too scared to fight back. And your alternative? Palpatine's voice grew sharper. Freedom? Democracy? Watch beings bicker and argue while nothing gets done? The old republic was bloated, corrupt, inefficient. I rebuilt it into something functional, something strong, something that hunts down anyone who disagrees with you. Saitama shot back. He was getting annoyed now, his patience wearing thin. Look, I don't care about your politics or your empire. Just tell me, can you help me get home or not? Palpatine leaned back, the smile returning. I can, but such knowledge requires research, access to restricted archives, weeks, perhaps months of study. And during that time, you would need somewhere to stay. Resources, protection from those who would seek to capture you for their own purposes. Let me guess, Saitama said. You'll give me all that if I work for you. Not work, serve. The Emperor's voice dripped with false sincerity. A simple arrangement. You provide occasional assistance with Imperial matters, and I provide the resources needed to return you to your dimension. Everyone benefits. The Empire gains a powerful ally. You gain the knowledge you seek, and the galaxy becomes more stable. Saitama thought about this, his face expressionless. He thought about Obi-Wan's warnings, about the fear in every Stormtrooper's eyes, about Jabba's Rancor pit and the Fifth Brother's desperation. He thought about his own universe, where hero associations and monster organizations fought endless battles for control, and how tired he was of being used as a weapon by people who claimed to know what was best. Then he said, no. The word hung in the throne room like a death sentence. Vader tensed by the doors, his breathing accelerating. The royal guards shifted imperceptibly, grips tightening on their force pikes. Even the city lights beyond the windows seemed to dim, as if Coruscant itself recoiled from Saitama's refusal. Emperor Palpatine's smile never wavered. If anything, it widened. No, he repeated, savoring the word. How refreshing. Do you know how long it's been since anyone said that word to me? Years? Decades, perhaps. He stood again, descending from his throne with the slow deliberation of a hunting predator. Most beings recognize the futility of refusal. They see the Empire's might and understand that compliance is the only logical choice. But you genuinely believe you can refuse the Emperor of the galaxy. I just did, Saitama pointed out. So you did. Palpatine stopped a few meters away, close enough that Saitama could see the corruption etched into every line of his face, centuries of dark side use written in flesh. Which leaves me in a difficult position. I cannot allow you to leave. Your power, unchecked, poses a threat to Imperial stability. But I cannot kill you. Lord Vader's report makes that abundantly clear. And I cannot let you wander freely, rejecting my generous offer while remaining a variable I cannot control. So what are you going to do? Saitama asked. Lightning answered him. It erupted from Palpatine's fingers without warning, not blue-white like the Fifth Brothers or Vader's, but a sickly yellow-green that crackled with malevolent energy. This was Force lightning, refined over decades, fueled by hatred so pure it had become an art form. It struck Saitama's chest with enough power to reduce a starfighter to molten slag. Saitama felt it as a moderate tingle, slightly stronger than Vader's version. That's the third time someone's used lightning on me. Does everyone in this galaxy know that attack? Palpatine intensified the assault, channeling more power. The throne room filled with the ozone smell of electrical discharge. Arcs of lightning leaped from Saitama to the walls, scorching Imperial crests into the metal. The viewport windows cracked from the electromagnetic interference. And still, Saitama stood there, looking mildly uncomfortable, but fundamentally unharmed. Impossible, Palpatine hissed, cutting off the lightning. His hands trembled, not from weakness, but from shock. That should have liquefied your organs, stopped your heart, burned you from the inside out. It kinda tickled, Saitama admitted, but in an annoying way. Can you stop now? I said I'm not interested in working for you. The Emperor's yellow eyes narrowed to slits. You misunderstand the situation. This is not a negotiation. I am explaining what will happen. He raised both hands, and the entire throne room began to shake. The Force itself concentrated around Palpatine, drawn to him like gravity, bending reality to his will. You will serve the Empire, or I will make your existence so unbearable that you will beg for servitude. The walls began to close in, not physically moving, but the Force compressing the space, creating pressure that should have crushed Saitama's bones to powder. Palpatine was attempting something no Sith had tried in millennia, using the Force to alter reality itself around a target, creating a localized gravity well that would collapse inward until nothing remained. Saitama felt the pressure like wearing a slightly tight shirt. This is getting old. I've said no. That should be the end of it. There is no end to defying the Emperor. Palpatine's composure finally cracked, revealing the rage beneath the civilized veneer. I have spent 50 years consolidating power. I toppled the Jedi. I corrupted Anakin Skywalker. I built an empire from the ashes of a failed republic. And you, a bald simpleton from another dimension, think you can simply refuse me? He thrust his hands forward, and the collected power of the dark side erupted outward in a wave of darkness. A Sith technique so devastating it had been lost for centuries. It was pure hate given form, a psychic tsunami designed to shatter minds and break wills. It had reduced Jedi Masters to gibbering wrecks. It had driven entire populations to madness. It washed over Saitama like a breeze. He blinked. Was that supposed to do something? Palpatine staggered, actually staggered, his ancient body struggling with the effort of channeling so much power. The dark side was infinite, but his ability to channel it had limits. And he just expended more energy than he had in decades, trying to affect a being who simply didn't register the Force's existence. You are... The Emperor's breathing was labored now, his voice cracking. What are you? I've told everyone like 5 times now, Saitama said. his patience finally exhausted. "I'm a hero, just a hero for fun, and I'm done with this." He started walking toward the exit. "You don't have the information I need, or you're not willing to share it without strings attached, so I'll find someone else to ask. Thanks for nothing." "You dare turn your back on me?" Palpatine shrieked. "Guards, seize him! Vader, stop him!" The royal guards moved as one, their force pikes crackling as they thrust toward Saitama's back. The weapons were designed to penetrate nearly any armor, channeling both kinetic and electrical energy. They struck simultaneously, 6 perfectly coordinated strikes from 6 elite warriors. The pikes shattered on impact. Saitama didn't even pause, continuing his walk toward the doors. The guards stumbled, staring at their broken weapons in disbelief. Vader stepped into Saitama's path, his one remaining hand raised. "Stop. The Emperor commands it." "Move," Saitama said simply. "I cannot." Vader's voice carried a strange mixture of resignation and determination. "I serve the Empire. If the Emperor orders me to stop you, I must try. Even knowing I will fail." Saitama looked up at the towering Dark Lord, at the helmet that hid whatever remained of the man beneath, at the damaged armor still sparking from their earlier fight. And for the first time since arriving in this galaxy, Saitama felt something like pity. "You don't have to serve him," Saitama said quietly. "You're strong. You could leave, find something else to do with your life." "I have nothing else." Vader's words were hollow, empty. "The dark side is all that remains of Anakin Skywalker. Without it, I am nothing but pain and regret." "That's sad," Saitama observed. Then he gently pushed Vader aside, not with force, just a hand on the Dark Lord's chest that moved him as easily as opening a door. Vader didn't resist, knowing it would be pointless. "Kill him!" Palpatine screamed from his throne. "Destroy him! Bring the entire palace down on his head if you must." Vader stood motionless. The royal guards looked at their broken weapons, then at each other. None moved, because they all understood in that moment that the Emperor's power had limits, and Saitama existed beyond those limits. Palpatine's rage finally peaked. With a gesture, he tore a massive stone pillar from the throne room structure and hurled it at Saitama with the Force. The hero caught it one-handed, the impact crater forming under his feet, but his arm not moving a centimeter. He set the pillar down carefully. "Stop throwing stuff at me," Saitama said. "You're going to hurt someone." The Emperor raised both hands for one final assault, and then stopped. His yellow eyes widened in sudden realization, the rage draining from his face. Because he'd finally understood what Vader had understood in the desert, what the fifth brother had understood in Jabba's palace. There was no winning this. No strategy, no tactic, no application of power that could overcome someone who existed outside the fundamental rules of reality. Every technique Palpatine knew, every Sith secret he'd mastered, every dark side ability he'd refined, all useless against absolute physical immunity. For the first time in decades, Emperor Palpatine faced something he couldn't manipulate, couldn't destroy, and couldn't control. "Go," he said finally, his voice quiet and dangerous. "Leave my palace. Leave Coruscant. Leave Imperial space entirely." Saitama paused at the doors, looking back. "You're not going to help me get home?" "I cannot help someone I cannot control," Palpatine admitted, each word bitter as poison. "And I will not waste resources on a being who defies me. So go. Seek your answers elsewhere. Perhaps the rebels will be foolish enough to try using you." A cold smile. "And when they fail, when you realize this entire galaxy will try to exploit you, remember that I offered partnership, not servitude, partnership." "No, you didn't," Saitama said bluntly. "You tried to force me to serve you, couldn't, and now you're pretending you wanted something else. I've met people like you before. They're always the same. He left, the doors closing behind him with a resonant boom. Silence filled the throne room. Palpatine stood trembling, from exhaustion, from rage, from the unfamiliar taste of absolute failure. Vader remained by the doors, his breathing the only sound. The royal guards stood frozen, uncertain. Finally, Palpatine spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "Find him. Track him. I want to know where he goes, who he contacts, what he does. If we cannot use him, we must ensure no one else can either." "Yes, my master," Vader replied. "And Lord Vader?" The Emperor turned, his yellow eyes burning. "That being just walked into the heart of my power and left unharmed, having rejected me to my face. Do you understand what this means?" "That we cannot kill him," Vader said. "No." Palpatine's smile returned, colder than before. "It means we must make him irrelevant. The Empire does not need invulnerable beings. We have Star Destroyers, we have armies, we have fear. One man, no matter how powerful, cannot stand against the might of an entire galaxy." He returned to his throne, settling into it like a spider in its web. Let him wander, let him search, and when he inevitably causes problems for the rebellion, we will simply clean up the aftermath. Vader bowed and departed, leaving the Emperor alone with his thoughts. As the Dark Lord walked through the palace corridors, he contemplated the being who had defeated him twice, who had rejected the Emperor's power, who had done what Vader had never managed, remained free in a galaxy that allowed no freedom. And in the deepest, most buried part of what remained of Anakin Skywalker, something stirred. A memory of who he'd been before the dark side. A question he'd stopped asking years ago. What if there was another way? Saitama made it to the palace's landing platform before the complications started. 3 squads of stormtroopers blocked his path, their rifles raised. An officer stood behind them, his datapad displaying what Saitama assumed were orders. "By order of the Emperor," the officer announced, "you are to be escorted off Coruscant immediately. Any attempt to remain will be considered hostile action against the Empire." "I'm trying to leave," Saitama pointed out. "How do I do that? I don't have a ship." The officer gestured, and a small transport descended, civilian model, older but functional. "This vessel has been requisitioned for your use. It contains enough fuel to reach the nearest neutral system. After that, you are no longer the Empire's concern." Saitama boarded the transport, finding it cramped but adequate. The controls were unfamiliar, covered in labels he couldn't read. He pressed a few buttons experimentally, and the engines coughed to life. Through the viewport, Coruscant's city lights stretched to every horizon, a planet-wide monument to centralized power. "How do I fly this thing?" Saitama called out. A droid rolled up the ramp, an astromech unit with a dented dome and a weary air. It beeped something that the transport's translator rendered as, "I am R4G9, assigned to navigate for you. Please sit down and do not touch anything. I will handle the flight." "Oh, good, thanks." Saitama settled into the pilot's chair as the transport lifted off, leaving the Imperial Palace behind. Within minutes, they'd cleared Coruscant's atmosphere and jumped to hyperspace. The coordinates set for somewhere the droid claimed was far from Imperial entanglements. As the stars streaked past, Saitama thought about everything that had happened. He'd come to Coruscant hoping for answers and found only more people trying to use him. The Emperor had been no better than Jabba, just better at hiding it behind civilized words. "Hey, droid," Saitama said. Do you know anything about the rebels? R4G9 beeped thoughtfully, then displayed text on a small screen. The Rebel Alliance, terrorist organization, according to Imperial designation, freedom fighters according to themselves. Bases scattered across Outer Rim, known for guerrilla tactics and unlikely victories. Where can I find them? The droid's beeps sounded almost amused. The text changed. Asking for their location defeats the purpose of secrecy. However, rumors suggest they maintain presence near Yavin system. No confirmation, just rumors. Good enough, Saitama said. Take me there. That will require additional hyperspace jump. Also, they will probably shoot at us. I'll deal with it. R4G9's dome spun in what might have been a shrug, and the droid began calculating a new route. Behind them, in the palace they'd left, Emperor Palpatine stared into the darkness and schemed. And ahead, somewhere in the Outer Rim, the Rebel Alliance prepared for battles they couldn't imagine, including the arrival of someone who could change everything, if only he wanted to. But Saitama didn't want to change anything. He just wanted to go home. The Yavin system was a collection of gas giants and moons on the edge of known space, far from Imperial centers of power, hidden in sensor shadows and navigation hazards. R4G9 dropped them out of hyperspace at the system's edge, immediately detecting the energy signatures of a base on Yavin 4, the largest moon orbiting the orange gas giant. Rebel presence confirmed, the droid's translation displayed. Also detecting 3 starfighters on patrol. They have spotted us. Incoming hail. The comm crackled to life. Unidentified transport, this is Red 3 of the Rebel Alliance. State your purpose or we will open fire. You have 10 seconds to comply. Saitama leaned toward the comm panel. Hi. I'm looking for the rebels. Someone said you might be able to help me get home. Silence. Then a different voice. Female. Professional. This is Red Leader. What do you mean, get home? Are you a displaced refugee? Imperial defector? I'm from another dimension, Saitama explained. Punched through by accident. The Empire said they'd help, but they just tried to force me to work for them. Someone on Tatooine said the rebels might be different. More silence. Saitama heard muffled conversation in the background, multiple voices debating something. Finally, Red Leader spoke again. We're transmitting landing coordinates. Follow them exactly. Any deviation and we will shoot you down. Understood? Sure, Saitama agreed. R4G9 guided the transport down through Yavin 4's atmosphere. Thick jungle canopies stretching in every direction, broken by ancient stone temples that predated human spaceflight. The rebel base was built into one of these temples, a massive ziggurat with landing pads carved into its levels. Dozens of starfighters sat in various states of readiness. X-wings mostly, with some Y-wings, and a handful of A-wings. The transport settled onto a designated pad, and Saitama emerged to find himself surrounded by rebel soldiers with rifles pointed at him. They wore mismatched armor and uniforms, orange flight suits, military fatigues, even civilian clothes with armor plates bolted on. A far cry from the Empire's uniform sterility. Hands where we can see them, ordered a woman in a commander's uniform, her blaster pistol steady. You claim to be from another dimension. Explain, quickly. Saitama raised his hands, more to be polite than because the weapons concerned him. I was fighting monsters in my world, threw a really hard punch, and broke through to this galaxy. Landed on Tatooine, been trying to find someone who knows about dimensional travel so I can go home. And the Empire? Another voice, male, stepping forward, older, with a general's insignia. Why are you here instead of working for them? They tried to make me serve them. I refused. The Emperor got mad and threw lightning at me. It didn't work. Saitama lowered his hands. Look, I'm not interested in your war. I just want information. If you can help, great. If not, I'll keep looking. The commander and general exchanged glances. A third figure approached, a woman in white robes with her hair styled in elaborate loops, her bearing regal despite the military setting. Saitama recognized leadership when he saw it, even if he didn't know her name. I am Senator Leia Organa, she said, studying him with sharp, intelligent eyes. Alliance to restore the Republic. You're saying you rejected the Emperor's offer? That you walked away from Palpatine himself? Yeah, he was a bad guy. I don't work for bad guys. A ripple of reaction moved through the assembled rebels. Surprise, disbelief, hope. Because walking away from the Emperor wasn't something people did, not if they wanted to keep breathing. This could be a trap, the general muttered. Imperial spy, program story, designed to infiltrate. General Dodonna, Leia interrupted gently. Does he look like an Imperial spy? Everyone looked at Saitama. His tattered yellow jumpsuit, his bald head, his complete lack of weapons or equipment, his expression of mild confusion at all the attention. He did not look like an Imperial spy. He looked like someone who'd gotten lost on the way to a costume party. No, Dodonna admitted. But that doesn't mean I sense no deception, a new voice said. An old man emerged from the temple's shadows, wearing robes similar to Obi-Wan's, but cleaner, less weathered. He moved with a Jedi's grace, his presence in the Force calm and centered. And more interesting, I sensed nothing from him at all. No Force presence, no life signature, as if he doesn't exist in the Force's flow. That's what everyone keeps saying, Saitama confirmed. Some Inquisitor tried to use Force powers on me. Didn't work. Then Vader tried. Also didn't work. Then the Emperor tried really hard. Still nothing. The Jedi's eyes widened. You fought Vader and the Emperor and survived? I didn't really fight them. I just stood there mostly. They kept attacking and nothing happened. Then I left. Leia stepped closer, her political instincts recognizing something unprecedented. You're immune to the Force. Completely immune. Do you understand what that means? Force lightning, Force choke, Force push, none of it affects you? I'm immune to psychic powers in general, Saitama explained. Had a really strong Esper try to crush me once. Didn't work either. Esper? Dodonna looked confused. Psychic. Someone who manipulates reality with their mind. Saitama shrugged. Same thing as your Force users, I think. Just a different name. The Jedi spoke again, his voice careful. My name is Master Rom. I'm one of the few surviving Jedi. We've spent years hiding, fighting in secret, trying to resist the Empire's darkness. And you're saying you simply walked up to the Emperor and refused him? He wasn't happy about it, Saitama admitted. Threw a lot of lightning. Tried to crush me with the Force, sent guards after me. But yeah, I refused. Leia made a decision, the kind of instant tactical judgment that had kept her alive through years of rebellion. Come with me. All of you, command staff only. We'll debrief him properly, assess the situation, and determine next steps. She gestured toward the temple entrance. And someone get him some proper clothes. That jumpsuit won't last another day. They led Saitama into the temple, through ancient corridors now filled with modern military equipment. The briefing room was a converted ceremonial chamber, its walls covered in star maps and tactical displays. Leia sat at the head of the table, flanked by Dodonna and a handful of other commanders. Master Rom stood to the side, observing. Start from the beginning, Leia said. everything that's happened since you arrived. Saitama told them. The crater on Tatooine, the fight in Mos Eisley, Jabba's Rancor, the fifth brother, his conversation with Obi-Wan, the confrontation with Vader, the audience with Palpatine. He left nothing out, describing each encounter with the same matter-of-fact tone someone might use to recount a grocery shopping trip. By the end, the command staff sat in stunned silence. You killed Jabba's Rancor with your bare hands, Dodonna said slowly. Yeah, it wasn't very strong. You defeated an Inquisitor without taking damage. He couldn't hurt me. You fought Darth Vader twice and won both times. I didn't really fight. I just defended myself, and I felt bad about breaking his hand. You rejected the Emperor's offer to your face and survived. He couldn't kill me. I think that's why he let me leave. Leia leaned back in her chair, processing. Do you understand what you've done? What you represent? The Empire's greatest weapons, the Inquisitors, Vader, the Emperor himself, couldn't stop you. Every being in this galaxy operates under the Force's laws, except you. I'm not from this galaxy, Saitama reminded her. Different rules, I guess. And you want to return to your galaxy? Master Ram said. That's your only goal? Not to help the rebellion, or fight the Empire, or free the oppressed? I mean, I'd help if someone asked and it wasn't too complicated. Saitama said, I'm a hero, that's what I do. But my main goal is finding a way home. Do you guys know anything about dimensional travel? The command staff exchanged glances. Finally, Master Ram spoke. The Jedi Order studied many aspects of the Force, including its relationship with space and time. There are legends of Force users who could perceive other dimensions, even communicate with beings from other realities. But actually traveling between dimensions, he shook his head. That knowledge was lost millennia ago, if it ever truly existed. Saitama's face fell. So you can't help either. I didn't say that, Ram corrected gently. The Jedi Temple on Coruscant contained the largest Force archive in the galaxy. When the Empire rose, much of that knowledge was seized and stored in Imperial facilities. But some was saved, smuggled out by survivors, hidden in secret locations. There's a Jedi vault on Tatooine, relatively intact. If information about dimensional travel exists anywhere, it would be there. Tatooine is in Imperial space, Dodonna objected. Lightly patrolled, but still under their control. Sending anyone there is risky. I'll go, Saitama said immediately. If it means finding a way home, I'll check out this vault. Leia studied him, her political mind working. And if we help you reach Tatooine, would you be willing to help us in return? Nothing long-term, just occasional assistance, when situations arise that require someone who can't be killed or controlled. Like what? Saitama asked warily. Rescue missions in heavily fortified areas, breaking political prisoners out of detention facilities, destroying Imperial installations that are too well defended for normal assault. She held up a hand before he could object. I'm not asking you to join the rebellion permanently, just if we help you and you find yourself with time before you can leave, would you consider helping us? As a hero? Saitama thought about this. The rebels weren't like the Empire. They didn't demand service, didn't threaten, didn't try to manipulate. They were asking, making an offer, leaving the choice to him. It reminded him of the better hero associations back home. Okay, he said finally. If you help me get to Tatooine and check this vault, I'll help with some missions. Nothing that involves killing people if I can avoid it. And nothing long-term, just hero stuff. Rescue missions sound fine. Relief flooded through the command staff. Dodonna allowed himself a smile. Leia nodded, satisfied. Master Rom looked thoughtful, as if sensing something in the Force, or in the conspicuous absence where Saitama should be. "Then we have an agreement," Leia said, extending her hand. Saitama shook it, her grip firm despite being half his size. "We'll prepare a ship and supplies. Master Rom will accompany you to Tatooine. He knows the vault's location and can help you navigate the archives. In the meantime, you're welcome to rest here. The Alliance could use a bit of impossible hope right about now." Impossible hope? Saitama looked confused. "A being who defeated Vader and rejected the Emperor," Leia explained, a rare smile crossing her face. "That's exactly what impossible hope looks like." Over the following days, Saitama became something of a fixture at the Yavin base. The rebels treated him with a mixture of awe, curiosity, and cautious friendship. He ate in the mess hall with pilots who peppered him with questions about his universe. He watched training exercises, occasionally demonstrating techniques that left soldiers stunned. Not complicated martial arts, just simple punches delivered with perfect form. He even agreed to a sparring match with their best hand-to-hand fighter, a Wookiee named Chewbacca, which ended in 3 seconds when Saitama's gentle tap sent the massive warrior sliding across the training mat, unharmed but thoroughly defeated. Master Rom spent hours talking with Saitama about the Force, trying to understand how someone could exist outside its influence. "The Force connects all living things," the old Jedi explained one evening as they watched the sunset over Yavin 4's jungle. "It flows through us, binds us, gives us purpose. But you're like a stone in a river. The water flows around you, but never touches you. It shouldn't be possible. Maybe the Force just doesn't exist in my universe," Saitama suggested. "So when I came here, I brought that non-existence with me." "Perhaps." Rom stroked his beard thoughtfully. "Or perhaps you represent something the Force cannot encompass. A reminder that even infinite power has limits." The day of departure arrived with typical rebel efficiency. A modified YT-1300 freighter sat ready on the landing pad, its hyperdrive upgraded and its weapons fully charged. R4G9 had volunteered to continue serving as navigator, the droid having apparently decided that following Saitama was more interesting than Imperial service. Master Rom carried a simple pack with supplies and his lightsaber, hidden beneath his robes. Leia came to see them off, accompanied by a young man with sandy hair and an eager expression. "This is Luke Skywalker," she introduced, "one of our best pilots. He wanted to meet you before you left." Saitama looked at Luke, really looked at him, and saw something familiar. The same earnest desire to help that motivated rookie heroes back home. The same idealism, not yet tempered by failure. "Nice to meet you," Saitama said. "You're a pilot?" "Best in the rebellion," Luke said with youthful confidence, then immediately looked embarrassed. "Well, one of the best. I took out a Star Destroyer last month." "That's impressive," Saitama said, meaning it. He might not understand much about this galaxy, but destroying a 6-kilometer warship sounded difficult. "Luke," Leia said gently, "wanted to go with you to Tatooine. I told him no, we need our pilots here, but he wanted to wish you luck." "May the Force be with you," Luke said formally. "Thanks," Saitama replied, even though it apparently isn't. The joke landed better than expected, drawing laughs from the gathered rebels. As Saitama and Master Rom boarded the freighter, a crowd gathered to watch. Soldiers, pilots, technicians, all wanting to see the impossible being who'd done what no one else could, who'd said no to the Emperor and lived. The freighter lifted off, engines roaring, climbing toward the stars. R4G9 plotted the jump to Tatooine, while Saitama settled into the co-pilot's seat, watching Yavin 4 shrink behind them. Master Ram stood in the cockpit doorway, his expression contemplative. "You give them hope," the Jedi said quietly. "Not because you're powerful, though you are, but because you remind them that the Empire isn't invincible, that even Vader and Palpatine can be resisted. They needed to see that." "I didn't do anything special," Saitama protested. "I just refused to work for bad guys." "Sometimes," Master Ram said with a smile, "that's the most revolutionary act possible." The stars stretched into lines as the freighter jumped to hyperspace, carrying them toward Tatooine, toward ancient Jedi secrets, toward answers that might finally let Saitama go home. Behind them, the rebellion continued its impossible fight against an overwhelming empire. And ahead, on a peaceful farming world, a vault waited, filled with knowledge from 1,000 generations of Force users. Knowledge that might explain how a man who existed outside the Force could exist at all. And perhaps, if they were lucky, knowledge that would let him leave. Tatooine's grasslands stretched endlessly beneath twin suns, broken only by scattered settlements and ancient ruins. The Jedi Vault lay hidden beneath one such ruin. A temple complex abandoned centuries ago, its chambers carved deep into bedrock and protected by mechanisms that only Force users could unlock. Master Ram guided them through collapsed corridors and sealed doors, his connection to the Force revealing passages that would remain invisible to normal sight. The archive chamber was smaller than Saitama expected, just a circular room lined with holocrons and data crystals, their surfaces glowing faintly with stored knowledge. Master Ram activated them one by one, holographic texts appearing in the air, written in languages that predated the Republic. They searched for 3 days. Master Ram translated ancient Jedi philosophies about the nature of reality, Sith experiments with dimensional rifts, Force techniques that theoretically could bend space and time. But nothing definitive. Nothing that explained how to send someone back to a dimension they'd punched through by accident. On the third evening, as Saitama sat surrounded by floating texts he couldn't read, growing increasingly frustrated, Master Ram made a soft sound of surprise. "Here," the Jedi said, highlighting a passage. A record from the Old Republic era. A Jedi named Mitra Surik encountered beings from other dimensions, echoes they called them, reflections of people who existed in parallel realities. The Force could perceive them, but not touch them, similar to your condition. Did she figure out how to send them back? Saitama asked hopefully. No. Master Ram's voice was gentle with sympathy. The echoes faded naturally over time, drawn back to their home dimensions by, the text calls it, dimensional resonance, as if reality itself corrected the mistake of their presence. He looked at Saitama carefully. It's possible that given enough time, months, years perhaps, you'll naturally return home, your universe pulling you back. Years? Saitama's shoulders slumped. I can't wait that long. I have bills to pay, grocery sales to catch. King's probably worried. I'm sorry, Master Ram said, and meant it. This is all the archive contains. The Jedi studied many mysteries, but dimensional travel was beyond even their greatest masters. He paused. Though there's one more possibility, the Force itself responds to need, to balance. Perhaps if you simply stop searching. Live your life here, help where you can. The Force will find a way to send you home when the time is right. Saitama looked at him skeptically. The Force doesn't affect me, remember? The Force affects everything, even by absence. Your presence here has already changed things. The Emperor knows he cannot control you. The rebellion knows resistance is possible. Even Vader has been reminded that power has limits. The old Jedi smiled. Perhaps that's why you're here. Not by accident, but by purpose. And when that purpose is fulfilled, I'll get to go home, Saitama finished. He thought about it. Staying in this strange galaxy, helping the rebels with their missions, maybe finding some strong opponents along the way. It wasn't what he wanted, but it wasn't terrible either. And if Master Rom was right, if helping was what it took to trigger his return... Okay, Saitama said finally. I'll help the rebellion, do hero stuff, and maybe eventually I'll just wake up back home. They returned to Yavin 4 with the news. Leia accepted it with political grace, already planning missions that could use someone invulnerable. Dodonna started drawing up tactical scenarios. Luke Skywalker, having heard stories of Saitama's fight with Vader, asked for training tips with an eagerness that reminded Saitama of Genos. And so Saitama became something unprecedented in galactic history. A rebel asset who couldn't be killed, controlled, or corrupted. He participated in rescue missions, walked into Imperial facilities alone, and emerged with freed prisoners. He deflected Star Destroyer turbolaser fire with his body while rebel ships fled to safety. He even fought Vader a third time on Bespin, and the duel ended with the Dark Lord simply walking away, having learned the futility of trying to defeat him. Months passed, then a year. Saitama helped the rebellion strike crucial blows against the Empire, his presence forcing Imperial strategists to recalculate everything they knew about warfare. But he never forgot his home. Never stopped hoping that one morning he'd wake up in his apartment in Z City, that this would all have been a strange dream. Until one night, sleeping in his quarters on a rebel frigate, Saitama felt something shift. A pulling sensation, gentle but insistent, like reality itself had finally noticed he didn't belong and was correcting the error. He sat up, seeing his hands beginning to fade, not dying, just becoming translucent, as if he was being erased from this dimension. Master Rom, who'd been meditating nearby, opened his eyes. It's happening. The dimensional resonance. You're going home. Saitama stood, watching himself fade further. Around him, rebels rushed to the quarters. Leia, Luke, Dodonna. Pilots he'd saved, soldiers he'd fought beside. They stood watching this impossible being finally become impossible in a different way. Thank you, Leia said simply, for everything. For showing us that the Empire could be resisted, for giving us hope. I didn't really do much, Saitama protested, his voice growing distant. Just some hero stuff. You guys did the hard work. May the Force be with you, Luke said, even if it can't touch you. Saitama smiled at that. Then the pulling sensation intensified, reality folding around him, dimensions collapsing back to their proper configuration. The last thing he saw was Master Rom nodding, as if confirming some understanding he'd reached. And then, Saitama opened his eyes to find himself standing in his apartment in Z City. The grocery list was still in his pocket. The TV was showing the news, something about a monster attack in B City, heroes responding. Outside his window, the familiar skyline of his homeworld stretched out in all its mundane glory. He was home. The doorbell rang. Saitama answered it to find Genos standing there, his metal face concerned. Sensei, you disappeared for 3 minutes. I felt a strange energy signature and came immediately. Are you all right? 3 minutes? Saitama blinked. Time had moved differently between dimensions. He'd spent over a year in the Star Wars galaxy, but here only minutes had passed. Yeah, I'm fine. Just punched something weird. Had a strange experience. What happened? Genos asked eagerly. Met some people in another galaxy? Helped them fight an empire. Nothing special. Saitama looked at his grocery list. I still need to buy eggs, though. The store's sale ends today. And just like that, life returned to normal. Saitama went to the supermarket, caught the sale, and returned home to cook a simple meal. But sometimes, late at night, he looked up at the stars and wondered about a galaxy far, far away. About rebels still fighting for freedom, about an empire slowly learning that fear alone couldn't maintain control. About a young pilot named Luke who would someday face his destiny. The Force had sent him home, just as Master Ram predicted. And in doing so, it had reminded him that even someone who existed outside the Force's touch could make a difference. That being a hero wasn't about power or destiny or cosmic significance. Sometimes it was just about saying no to the bad guys and helping where you could. And that was enough.